Part 27. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 262. Confirm to use the scene card, shipwreck. Extract the map from the user's memory. Extraction successful. Please confirm the location and scope of generating the simulation scene. In front of Yilin. A mini three-dimensional map that only Yilin can see, like a three-dimensional holographic simulation map, is outlined with simple but technological lines, almost showing the entire academy in front of Yilin. This mini holographic map can be said to be based on the map of Styx Junior High School in Yilin's memory. It does not really show the map of the entire Styx Junior High School. If Yilin has not yet reached the place, there will be a gap on the map, which is the fog zone, and it is impossible to see the true appearance. But, enough is enough. Yilin skillfully operated the holographic mini-map. Scene card has no lethality, but can regenerate a complex maze-like map at any place. The simulated map generated by the scene card is somewhere between virtual and real. It can include the real terrain and combine it with the simulated map to regenerate a completely new map. This is a closed area, but it exists in reality. However, this rare prop looks fancy, but in actual use, it is not exactly the same thing. First, there is no primary or secondary map generated by the scene card. In other words, the position of both the user and everyone in the scene is actually the same. The scene cards are based on different levels. The ordinary level covers a room, the rare level covers a building, the rare level covers a garden, and the epic level covers a city. In short, scene cards of different levels are randomly cut according to the scene theme. Space is restructured into new rooms and passages. Even the user himself is in a randomly generated scene and cannot obtain the latest scene map. So in most cases, scene cards are more entertaining than practical. After all, after the scene is generated, even the user himself cannot control it, and he cannot cheat it, so why bother? Well, there is still fun. Some apostles have great imagination and collect some special scene cards according to their personal tastes to add a certain interest. It is also a very unique way to use them, ahem, cough, cough. But there is no doubt that this kind of interesting, entertainment prop has become one of Yilin's backup tools in this situation. When Yilin originally got this unusual prop card during the settlement in the Caribbean, she never thought it would be used in an escape trial. After all, in escape trials, finding a way out is already very difficult, and then build a random maze on the map. Are you kidding me? Isn't it a big deal? I think the grass on the graves of Han Han and Tian Tian is not high enough. Do we need a threesome? But at this moment, Yilin still used it? What's the use of having two keys? Wait until you can find the keyhole. With a slight sneer, Yilin stretched out her finger and dropped it a little in the void. The scene generation location has been confirmed. Please confirm the simulation scene range. Yilin drew another big circle. Almost the entire Styx Junior High School was included. This operation consumes a total of 14674 death points. Will a shipwreck simulation scene be generated? Yes/no? Yilin operates extremely quickly. Just press confirm. If we take it seriously, this is a huge death point at the current level, but it makes Yilin quite painful. After all, after reaching the third level, the death points will have more uses. For the apostles, this is an asset that cannot be exchanged for a lot of money. Even Yilin, without the experience in Huading City, would definitely not be able to accumulate more than 30,000 yuan. Point of death. Nowadays, it takes nearly half of the time to generate such a scene. If there is no feeling at all, it is absolutely impossible. But Yilin's thoughts came to her very quickly. If you die here, what's the use of having more death points? Thinking about it so simply, it seems like I don't feel so distressed anymore. After confirmation, Yilin seemed to be able to imagine the sound of running water. There are only 18,726 death points left on the account. 3 seconds later, the fully transparent three-dimensional holographic map floating in front of Yilin began to rotate, jump, condense, and gather. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a palm-sized square, with brilliance flowing, and a faint flow of mysterious data passing over it, suspended in the middle of Yilin's palm, and slowly rotated. Go. The shimmering square flew straight into the sky. Simulation scenes are being randomly generated. Please wait with patience. At the same time. Playground. Queen Yanluo is having a fierce battle with a group of cafeteria ladies. This place has long been a terrifying scorched earth. There is a strong barbecue smell in the air, the kind without additives. Pieces of charred corpses were piled in mounds on the ground. There was also snow and white ash all over the sky, which was lifted high into the sky by the heat wave, fell softly, and covered the scorched earth and scorched corpses again. Black and white have become two of the only three colors left in the world. As for the third type, it's the red surrounding Queen Yanluo. Queen Yanluo steps into the void. The dark tights on Yanluo's body were torn into a state of play. From the cracks in the clothes, snow-white skin was revealed, with black and white interlaced, resembling the color of a zebra, very attractive. And opposite her, a giant woman with a face as red as blood, eyes as big as basketballs, and a sinister aura in her green pupils, standing proudly and standing nearly 4 meters tall. In the hands of the giantess, the weapons increased several times, with a pig-killing knife in one hand and a chopping board in the other, which were compared to a knife and a shield, making her look like a Valkyrie without clothes. In front of this terrifying figure, the tall queen, who was nearly 2 meters tall, had no choice but to face the giantess crotch, where there was a piece of waistband that was once an apron. The lady in the cafeteria slashed her butcher's knife. Yanluo, are you trying to betray the principal by doing such a stupid thing? Queen Yanluo showed disdain, spat, and a wisp of fire spurted out of her mouth, saying, inferior heads are indeed inferior heads. Don't you notice the aura of that one? The cafeteria ant's voice was like thunder, so what if you feel it? Don't forget where this is. That one can't put his finger here. This is the principal's territory. But, white ash is still here. Queen Yanluo's body trembled slightly. You won't be able to stay in this place for too long. There must be some, humph, wait until I catch those little reptiles that broke in and ask. Once you understand it, you can know the reason for everything. Ugly thing, how dare you want to stop this queen? Ha ha ha. Don't think that I'm afraid of you because you have the blood of a high-ranking fire demon. Bang bang bang. The body of the cafeteria ant trembled, the ash on her body rustled down, and her fat flesh squeezed each other, and there was a sound of steel plates hitting each other. Kill. The leading cafeteria lady came to see him with a knife. Kill. Behind him, the other ants who were still alive echoed in unison. The corner of Queen Yanluo's mouth twitched slightly. Sure enough, it is really a bad bloodline. With such little brains, no wonder he will be fooled around by others. And right now, when Queen Yanluo faced off against all the ants by herself, a point of light fell from the sky silently. That's an exquisite square. As big as a Rubik's Cube. The whole body is full of light. Just by chance, that little square landed between Queen Yanluo and Auntie, like a picnic. Then exploded. A brilliant ray of light, centered on the unknown square, completely exploded. The light spread from the direction of the playground at a terrifying speed. While Yilin and Myota continued to kill the monsters around them, they squinted and raised their heads to observe the changes in the scene. The extreme white light completely collided with the extreme blackness of the sky. Originally, Yilin thought that the fire burst out by Queen Yanluo could light up the sky. But it turns out that it was just an optical illusion. When the white light reached the sky, it seemed to be blocked by something. Black and white are so distinct that they cannot break through one step further, forming two completely different colors, as if they are two worlds apart. The dazzling white light quickly shone in every corner of Styx Junior High School, rearranging every room, every tree, and every inch of scorched earth in the circle drawn by Yilin, using the original building as a template, regenerating another completely different scene. This kind of power can be called a miracle. On the playground, Yan Luo and the ants were fighting with each other. Their expressions were shocked. For a moment, they forgot to fight and looked at the sky. Countless white light fragments, decomposed and reorganized. Countless streams of light are broken down into particles, but they are quickly reorganized according to certain rules. Reconstructed into walls, doors, and narrow corridors. In Styx Junior High School, all creatures shrouded in white light were instantly stunned. Just in the blink of an eye. The world before our eyes has changed. It has completely become another world. The white light dissipates. The surroundings were still filled with the unique bloody smell of demon corpses, but also a faint salty smell. Yilin is familiar with this smell. It's the sea. This is the smell of the sea. The simulation scene is generated. Simulation scene duration, 12 hours. Welcome to visit next time. Why did Ta's reminder suddenly make him lick his face and ask him to use the scene card again after the service? Then you have to be talented. He he he. A dog-like laughter suddenly came from behind Yilin. Yilin's face was expressionless. Under the perception of telekinesis, the movements around him were all under Yilin's control. Get chaos value at 250. After calmly chopping up the tentacles that emerged from all over the body of an unknown female classmate, Yilin finished harvesting and then began to look at the situation around her. This is a narrow room. Tick, tick, tick. Above the head, there are dark red water droplets, like light rain, falling one after another. It fell under my feet and echoed with a permeating sound. In addition to the salty smell of the sea, the room was also filled with an unpleasant smell of rust. Various smells mixed together. Yilin was reminded of the smell of a little angel's wing stored in a completely rusted iron cup after it was opened many years later. Although he has never experienced it, when he thinks about it, it is roughly the same. The walls were covered with a thick layer of seaweed, and there were even various fresh shellfish on them, slowly squirming. The color of the seaweed is very green, which is in sharp contrast with the rusty walls and bed frames around it, giving people a contradictory feeling of coexistence of decay and new life. Is this a cruise ship? In the room, there was originally one person and one strange person. That monster had just been hacked to death by Yilin. So Yilin was the only one left in the room. This is a randomly generated maze. Because the area that Yilin planned may be a bit large, a Caribbean-style medieval sailing ship seemed unable to reach this scale. So Ta carefully simulated a huge cruise shipwreck for Yilin to create a unique scene atmosphere. This is very realistic. Yilin had also obtained lower-level scene cards before, but felt they were of no use, so she sold a few death points in the trading function unlocked in the later period for apostles with special tastes to take. The room was very dark. But strangely, the emergency light seemed to be still on. It flickers on and off. The age of this sunken cruise ship cannot be studied and there is no need to study it. After all, it is just a simulation scene. There will not be any special props or equipment in the maze scene, nor will there be any special side tasks. A scene purely for entertainment or fighting. Yilin held the knife and quickly walked out of the corridor. Ding ding ding. The randomly generated scenes are protected by the rules of the tower. All passages, walls, doors, and other facilities that divide the maze cannot be destroyed by brute force. Otherwise the existence of the scene would be meaningless. The crisp sound of iron was heard in a room not far away. Yilin. He didn't need to think carefully, but he probably knew what was going on. Yilin, can't you, meow, open the door properly? Do you have to chop with a knife? Oda my, oh. A babbling sound. The door to the next room suddenly opened, and a smell of corruption poured out of the corridor. As expected, it was my Oda, who came to see her with a sword in hand. The two reunited. After all, the two were not too far apart before the new scene was generated. In the corridor, the demons reacted one after another. Waves of howls with varying pitches rippled through the corridor. After a brief period of shock, the silent cruise ship seemed to wake up again and became lively again. The rusty hatches were pushed open one after another. The demons in school uniforms had faces full of hunger, confusion, helplessness, all kinds of complicated emotions. From the various holes in their eyes, ears, mouth, and nose, weird strands of flesh poured out. Gradually gathering together, the shapes of these demons wearing student uniforms became increasingly weird and twisted. Whose taste is it that creates such a monster? Yilin complained secretly. Oda Mai didn't hesitate, and she and Yilin quickly came back to back, leaning against each other. A sunken ship, with a dim emergency light every few cabins in the corridor providing the only illumination. Although it is very strange that a sunken ship can still turn on a few emergency lights when the power system is almost collapsed, but it is the scene generated anyway. Yilin is too lazy to think about the reason. He even heard about it in the Apostolic Forum. Some scenes can simulate the room above the clouds, and the bedboard turns into white clouds. Or in a cradle of intertwined branches, below is a hot spring. Or simulate the room into a lively market, with countless tool people watching. Or it could be simulated into a crystal clear crystal palace, surrounded by countless tool men and mermaids as the background. What is even more outrageous is that the bed is simulated as a wooden horse, surrounded by wilderness, for people to do double fitness exercises on the rocking wooden horse. It is said that many apostles with special tastes have given this prop that provides special scenes a 5-star rating and very few negative comments. In short, this is really just a simulated scene with no logic at all. Monsters, licking their faces and drooling, swarmed around. In the corridor where Yilin and Oda Mai were, everything was green light as far as the eye could see. And those cabin doors opened one after another, and from each cabin, more green light joined this green ocean. The figures of all the monsters became more and more distorted in the darkness, like a group of demons dancing wildly. Oda Mai held the knife tightly, not nervous. Although she didn't say it, she felt much comfortable in her heart. This kind of rhythm where there are countless monsters waiting to be killed is just right. It's so friendly without having to go around and around with tasks. Where's the compass? Oda Mai took out the compass Yilin had given her not long ago, and the pointer of the compass was fixed somewhere. To be on the safe side, let me confirm again. The person you want to kill most right now is Lu Ruyan, right? This kind of woman should be the type you hate. Oda Mai did not hesitate, a trace of murderous intent flashed in her eyes, and she nodded. Now, the logic of Oda dance is very simple. The key in Yilin's bag was stolen by the woman. So they might die here. If she dies here, she won't be able to continue killing monsters. From then on, there was no swordsman named Oda Mai in the world. Thinking about it this way, the culprit is the woman named Lu Ruyan. So, Oda Mai was full of murderous intent and hated her so much. Simple and straightforward logic creates the purest desire. The compass carefully guided Oda Mai's desire deep in her heart at this moment. On the contrary, Yilin thought too much, and it was difficult to lock her desire on Lu Ruyan in a short period of time. Phantom Thief's preview letter, judging from the name of the prop, seems to be a prop that forces specific items to be stolen from the Apostle's storage space. Items that can break through storage space are extremely rare, and Yilin has never obtained one herself. However, it is said that the success rate of using this item is not high, and there are also a series of restrictions. If Yilin guessed correctly, Phantom Thief's notice letter, the name, attributes and other information of the target prop must be known in advance, and a notice must be issued. Yulin remembered what Lu Ruyan said as a joke not long ago. You have to hide the key and don't let anyone steal it. It turns out that as long as you say the word steal in front of the person who has been stolen, does it count as meeting the prediction restriction? But how does she know the properties of props, even their names? Yulin didn't even tell the truth about the name of the prop. Someone informed Lu Ruyan of the true identity of the key through some means. Or is it? Inferences flashed through Yulin's mind. The final conclusion seems to point to an absurd conclusion. Yulin's expression was solemn, but she didn't say much and looked in the direction pointed by the pointer. Diagonally upward. Certainly. It is not easy to find Lu Ruyan in a randomly generated and intricate maze simply relying on the direction guided by the compass. If that's the case, Lu Ruyan will definitely go to the exit. Haha, I see. This is troublesome. Before the monsters swarmed, Yulin quickly took out another prop. Although his net worth is not too rich, the accumulation of so many trials has also allowed Yulin to accumulate a lot of means. The apostle went through trials again and again, and in the later stages, he had more and more trump cards. No matter who it is, no one dares to underestimate another person, otherwise the boat may capsize in the gutter at any time. You cheat me, I cheat you, and if you get cheated, you cheat again. This is a common operation in later trials. Yulin quickly crushed the card. A flashlight that looked nothing special appeared in Yulin's hand. Magical solar flashlight. Grade rare. Effect: as long as there is light, the path forward can be illuminated within 30 minutes. Explanation: God said, "Let there be light," so there was a flashlight. Wait, Mr. God, is there something wrong with your reading comprehension? Number of uses remaining, 3/3. This is a prop that Yuren got from licking a certain bag in Hating City. In Hating City, Yulin was busy trying to lure out Zhang Huishun, or the undead Zhao Yulong, who most likely came from another timeline. Yulin had no time to think about what this seemingly useless prop was. Not long ago, after Yulin came back from Qingcheng, she accidentally discovered something weird about this flashlight when she was sorting out the storage space. A seemingly useless flashlight is actually rare? In this world, there are no completely useless props. Even the weirdest looking props may have more bizarre ways of opening them in some situations. Rare level can never be as useless as the superficial description. In other words, there is something fishy. So Yulin seemed to have guessed a new way to open it. Snapped. With the help of the emergency light, Yulin turned on the flashlight. Number of uses -1. Then, from the front end of the flashlight, a dim light converged into a ray shape and pointed forward. Although the light is not bright, it can tell the direction the light is pointing. In the corridor, while Yulin was playing with the broken flashlight, Oda Mai casually chopped down another demon that had just emerged from the next cabin. The demon seemed to be still in a dazed state, unable to react at all. In an instant, it was chopped into 2 pieces by Oda Mai, and it was twitching on the ground. Oda Mai, what are you turning on the flashlight for? Tisk, you don't understand this. Yulin took away the demon that was not completely separated from the ground with one knife, smiled, and turned around 180 degrees without any time to explain. Then the light from the flashlight, after Yulin turned around, it turned a strange corner in front of Yulin and pointed at Yulin's back. Really? This flashlight always points to the direction forward. Combined with the compass, Yulin and Mai Oda didn't have to worry about running around like headless flies in the maze. Walk. The direction pointed by the flashlight is similar to the direction of the compass needle. It means that what Lu Ruyan is rushing to is the same direction as the exit. In the intricate maze, Lu Ruyan quickly found the way. Yulin suppressed her smile, holding a knife in one hand and a flashlight in the other, turning them on silently and following them like a shadow. There are skills involved in navigating the maze. Oda mai, is this considered a skill? Forget it, why doesn't cheating count? Yilin said matter-of-factly. The passage is very narrow, and it is difficult for Oda mai to perform. After all, most of her sword moves are open and close, and scenes such as walls and hatches cannot be forcibly destroyed. Unless there is a rule-breaking prop like a mediocre life-saving hammer, otherwise, Yilin I can only walk through the maze in a simulated scene honestly. Two people, one behind the other. Start walking the maze. And a few minutes ago. On a cruise ship. At the moment when the random scene maze was generated, Lu Ruyan looked confused. She had originally planned to leave here and reach the pinnacle of life. The world, instantly changed into a strange shape. This script is wrong. Lu Ruyan held the key that flew into her hand not long ago. Ah no, it was pure nether crystal. She was so happy that she almost flew up and was ready to run towards the office building. And after a ray of light, she was in a strange place. This ebb and flow of mentality was completely unacceptable to Lu Ruyan. The cabin she was in was surrounded by nothing strange. After all, Lu Ruyan was not a rookie. After the shock, she quickly opened the hatch in front of her and observed the environment. And in front of you. But a strange narration and options emerged. You are very anxious. You clearly know the way out, but you don't know how to go. But you seem to have strong intuition at critical moments. Intuition can always save you from danger. Intuition. Lu Ruyan's eyes widened. I didn't even know I had strong intuition, how could the narrator know? Wait, could this be the hidden talent possessed by a woman who has experienced many battles? 666 Lu Ruyan couldn't help but call for herself. After walking out of the hatch. There were crowds of people all around, and there was a green light. The corridors are full of monsters. There are two roads in front of you. Please choose. A. Go left. B. After thinking about it, it should be left, right? C. At this time, my intuition told me to go to the left. If I still go to the right, isn't it wrong with my brain? Lu Ruyan. Sweat quickly broke out on her forehead. Sorry, today's first draft was a bit rough. It took me an hour to revise the 6,700 words. Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Xueshi. Chapter 263. Lu Ruyan is not stupid. Otherwise, it would be impossible to survive until now. He even stole the pure nether crystal from the storage space of that sinister-looking man. All this is due to prompts. And the devil's language carved on the floor. Is it because I triggered Yan Luo's branch line, that the narrator started giving hints? Or is it because I learned simple devil language? This choice is obviously telling me the answer. No, the narrator shouldn't lie to me. After all, it was the narrator's choice that led me to find the way to survive, and it was also because of the narrator that he guided me to find the way to open the way to survive. If it's a trap, I really can't think of what kind of trap it is that would be set up to look like a way out. Lu Ruyan thought quickly. After more than 10 seconds, she came to a conclusion. Obviously, the reason why that man pulled out the pure nether crystal was because he must have thought that the exit must be the real way to survive. Otherwise, wouldn't it be unnecessary if he did this? Cao Tian is also dead. She should I found something in the cafeteria and found a way to get out through the door. But she still died, it means that the gate is a dead end. As long as I have the pure dark crystal and my elementary devil language skills, I will definitely be able to open up a way out. The ship in front of me is probably built by that guy, good guy, you really can't underestimate him. Do you want to delay my time in this way? Etc. Lu Ruyan frowned, thinking carefully, his face turned slightly pale. In this sudden scene, he may have a way to find me. Is it some kind of tracking skill? Maybe a prop? Otherwise, he can't leaving the near for the far. Using this method, in addition to trying to delay me, he also wants to delay the bosses. The walls and doors here are all scenes that cannot be destroyed by force. Maybe even the boss can't break through and can only circle around here according to his ideas. What a terrible man. Lu Ruyan came to a conclusion in her mind, and Yilin's image became much more mysterious in Lu Ruyan's mind. But suddenly, Lu Ruyan's pale face turned red again, and she smiled and said to herself, "But what's the use? Even the narrator is on my side. The only person who survives from here will be me. Think of this." Lu Ruyan made a choice quickly. If, as she speculated, Yilin had the ability to chase people invisible in the maze, then it would be inappropriate to stay here for a long time. She must reach the exit as soon as possible and escape from this world. This is the right way. As long as he didn't actually complete the task and didn't see the return prompt, Lu Ruyan didn't dare to relax. After all, she had seen too many situations where things were suddenly reversed during trials. Moreover, although Oda Mai seems to have a weak brain, her fighting ability is really good. If Yilin and Oda Mai join forces to attack, Lu Ruyan will have no other way out except lying down and spreading her legs to see if the beauty trap works. If it weren't for fate, maybe we could still. Lu Ruyan's eyes revealed 3 parts regret, 3 parts regret, 3 parts happiness, and a hint of eagerness to try that was hidden deep inside. Shaking her head, she stopped thinking about it. Soon after selection, Lu Ruyan's fingers trembled. Walk to the left and pass by the green light in a blink of an eye. A few seconds later, bursts of shrill screams came from the corridor, and the green light went out. Lu Ruyan drifted away. Go up the stairs. To the right. Straight. Your intuition is getting more and more accurate. Incredibly accurate. He is indeed a transfer student. The teachers will be proud of you. Lu Ruyan did not dare to stay, and used all her strength, not caring about the injuries on her body. She ate when she was tired of killing, left when she was full, and chose after walking for a while. Anyway, on a cruise, there's no shortage of food. My back seemed a little sore and itchy, and the itch entered my heart. This feeling made Lu Ruyan subconsciously tighten her legs. Lu Ruyan wanted to scratch it, but had no time. This itching can only be allowed to continue. It was itching and it seemed like I was getting used to it. The options in front of me are becoming more and more direct, and the prompts are simple and crude. This left little room for Lu Ruyan to think. Lu Ruyan felt like he had turned on the navigation system and was walking in a maze like a cheat. She didn't know what was waiting for her, but at this time, she had no other choice but to believe in choice. Maybe this is also an option? Is what Yilin said definitely correct? Choice may not all be a trap. Lu Ruyan once again praised his wisdom. When Lu Ruyan shuttled through the maze of the cruise ship, Yilin and Oda Mai used 2 swords, 3 swords to move quickly through the corridor. Time was running out, and Yilin had no time to deliberately harvest chaos points. In order to improve the efficiency of killing monsters, Yilin could only explore the path with telekinesis while using the form change of Nai Hongxiu. Countless blood threads, like a head of red hair, strangled and danced around Yilin. No demon, male or female, could come within 2 meters of Yilin. In this state, although the lethality is quite good and it is very suitable for use in such a narrow environment, the spiritual energy is consumed at a speed visible to the naked eye. If it continues to be consumed like this, Yilin will be unable to sustain it sooner or later. In Yilin's mind, there was a thought that kept swirling around, making him aware of the deeper dangers in this world. The demons have weird shapes, with flying tentacles, and long bloody mouths will suddenly squeeze out from various parts of the body, which is weird and terrifying. Although Oda Mai couldn't completely let go and kill monsters, as long as she got used to the attack methods of these demons, the large green light in front of her would be nothing more than monsters. As they kept killing, both of them seemed to have formed muscle memory. The demon dressed as a student has not yet transformed and only sticks out his butt. The two of them can tell where the demon will extend its bloody tentacles, as if it is a conditioned reflex. Yulin had no time to count how many chaos points she had harvested during this process. All in all, this wave of chaos value is enough to offset the huge consumption of death points. This wave is not a loss. Of course, the premise is that he can leave this world alive in the end. After completing the main mission, everything is empty talk. Yulin remembered that this time the main mission had no time limit in theory. Until death do we part. Occasionally there is a demon who is proficient in little magic, and from time to time Bayu makes some surprises, which brings some obstacles to the two of them, but only a little bit. Compared with Yulin's insidious way of killing monsters, Otamai looked very casual and charged forward directly. If the passage was higher, Yulin could not wait to jump up and step on the green lighting foreheads, maybe he could go faster. Behind the two of them, pieces of meat and bright red blood were left on the ground, piling up into a mountain. In addition to the smell of seaweed and blood, the increasingly rich smell of blood was like a guiding light, causing more demons to follow the smell and gather in this direction. More and more demons came, one after another, crowding the corridor. As a spiritual apostle, Yulin currently needs to consume spiritual energy points for all his methods except level A. For spiritual apostles, the control of spiritual energy value is also a matter of experience and knowledge. When the spiritual energy is exhausted, it will cause a backlash and cause you to faint instantly. Yulin didn't want to try that kind of headache feeling again. But Mai Ota fully demonstrated her professionalism in killing people. Despite the injury and fatigue, Ota Mai's movements did not slow down much. Instead, she adjusted the rhythm of the sword, allocating her physical strength more reasonably without affecting efficiency. Yulin holds a flashlight, and a ray of light bends in the crisscrossing, up and down corridors. When arriving at a critical fork, Yulin would simultaneously confirm the trajectory of the flashlight light and the direction of the compass in Ota Mai's hand to speculate on Lu Ruyan's movements. Along the way, neither of them communicated much. Wherever they passed, apart from the screams of monsters, there were almost no sounds belonging to the two of them. After another corner. After going up another set of spiral stairs, Yulin emerged from the stairs. Open another gorgeous door. Before my eyes, it suddenly became clear. This is an empty hall, divided into two floors. Through the flickering emergency lights on the walls on both sides, Yulin could barely tell that this place had once been a high-end Western restaurant. Stepping on the ground, there were rusty cutlery and cutlery from time to time, which were crushed by Yulin and Ota Mai with their feet, making an abnormal clicking sound. In the hall, there were also many tables and chairs belonging to the Styx Junior High School classrooms, which were broken to pieces in the hall. Even in the distance, there is a basketball hoop, the delicate ball stand glowing with light. Combined with the randomly generated cruise ship scene of Styx Junior High School, it was forcibly blended into a unique scenery. In the hall, filled with a pungent burning smell. It seemed that every time he breathed, there were particles floating in the air after the demon's fat tissue was burned, and they were inhaled into the lungs as he breathed. Yulin felt as if the hairs on her nose were covered with sticky oil particles. There is no green light in the hall. In other words, there are no monsters with green eyes. But in the center of the hall, a pair of burning eyes instantly ignited in the darkness. Under her eyes, those seductive red lips formed an interesting curve. Behind that figure, the charred corpses piled up like a mountain, almost blending into the back, and all became a mess. It was impossible to distinguish the shape of the charred corpses when they were alive. Regardless of whether they were men or women, they were completely merged into one big lump. This terrifying amount makes it difficult to tell how many peas there are in the pile of corpses. Call. Yulin couldn't help but tighten her hand holding the knife and let out a long breath. After defeating a bunch of mobs, I changed to an empty scene, and then there was a boss waiting with full health. As one of the boss of Styx Junior High School, can you stop adapting to the scene changes so much and pretend that you are a boss in a copy of the game? This scene made Yulin suddenly feel like he was playing an MMORPG game. After slaying waves of mobs, I opened the guard room, and a boss was taking care of himself. This is quite surprising. The scene in front of her, forming a team to fight the boss, had such a strong sense of déjà vu that Yulin couldn't help but complain from the bottom of her heart. "Oh, you humble reptiles, are you the one who caused all this?" Queen Yanluo smiled charmingly, and on the top of her head, between the tips of her hair, two long horns burning with blazing flame slowly grew out. And behind the leather coat, where the chrysanthemum was, suddenly split open, and a flexible and slender tail stretched out. Queen Yanluo also has a cute spade shape on her tail, with a wisp of flame burning at the end, swaying endlessly. Queen Yanluo, instantly transformed into the shape of boss. Oda Mai didn't say any nonsense, spoke for the sword, took a step forward, and the sword light, slashed out. Yulin didn't talk nonsense. The moment Oda Mai took action, he also put away the flashlight and prepared to fight in a group. Queen Yanluo, in this trial, is equivalent to a gatekeeper boss, and her strength cannot be underestimated. Even if Yulin had the recovery ability of the Dionysus factor as a backing, he was not sure whether he would be instantly burned to ashes under that terrible fire power. When she was in the classroom of Grade 2, Grade 3, Queen Yanluo seemed to be worried about not burning other precious students, so the temperature was not too high. But at this moment, Yulin could tell from the mountain of burnt and sticky corpses of Queen Yanluo that Queen Yanluo no longer held back at this moment, and her anger was raging. Or is it because of menopause? Or is it love? Only the devil knows what Queen Yanluo has been through. Beat the boss, no need to talk nonsense. Yulin took out the pen with her backhand. The blood jasmine in the right hand and the pen in the left hand were turned on at the same time, and like a shadow, Yulin lurked quietly, disappearing in the darkness. Although in a direct battle, following him like a shadow has little effect. But with Mai Oda wielding the sword as brightly as a light bulb, maybe in this situation, Queen Enro can create a moment of disappearance of the sense of existence as long as she is distracted for a moment. Brilliant flames gathered into wings behind Yanluo and soared into the air. That terrible heat wave made the almost sealed Western restaurant as stuffy as an oven, and the dark room as bright as day. Bang bang bang. All the emergency lights exploded at the same time under the high temperature. As soon as Oda Mai made a slash, she was forced back by the rolling heat wave and could not move forward again. And right now, Yulin's expression changed slightly. At this moment, when the two of them were facing the pressure from Queen Yanluo, the long-lost narration in front of Yulin appeared again. Queen Yanluo feels betrayed. She was very angry. Queen Yanluo's weakness is obviously water. But you don't have water. You know very well that if you take a few steps closer now, you will be burned to ashes by the angry Queen Yanluo, with no other consequences. But if you are keen, you suddenly notice that there seems to be a small door at the end of the corridor on the second floor on the upper right side. Life points are dropping like crazy. Yulin hides in the darkness. He flicked through the narration that suddenly appeared. Then he raised his head, followed the tips and looked up and to the right. Yulin. From this angle, I can really see a small door there, it's like a ghost. Narrator, when did you become blind? The narration continued on its own. You know very well that if you abandon your companions at this time, you will most likely be able to escape. This is the choice between human nature and life. You have always insisted that no matter what time, the only thing you can never give up is your own life. You will. Please choose. A. I think I should abandon my classmate, let her attract the attention of Queen Yanluo, and then leave quietly. Anyway, we are not familiar with each other in the first place. B. I don't think this is called betraying your teammates, This is called following your teammates' last wishes. Obviously, my companion voluntarily stayed here to hold back Queen Yanluo, and I will leave quietly. See, monster, even if I close my eyes, I can see that you are not human. Sorry to bother you, I'm leaving. Yulin. While watching the narrator, Yulin had already circled the Western restaurant and came to the back of Queen Yanluo, 10 meters away. 10 meters away, Yulin felt that Queen Yanluo, who was in the center of the fire, was like a small sun, emitting light and heat to the cold sunken ship. Yulin found it strange how Queen Yanluo's little leather coat could barely remain intact under such a temperature. Could it be that there was some mysterious power behind it? After ignoring the narration, Yulin lowered her head and thought about the possibility of escaping. 3 seconds later, Yulin made a quick decision and quickly sent a message to Oda Mai. Try to find a way to attract the boss's attention, and I will find a way to defeat the boss. There is an exit at your 2 o'clock direction, on the 2nd floor, understand? Understand. Oda Mai seemed slightly startled, squinting her eyes and barely able to see clearly the figure of Queen Yanluo. Oda Mai, who was sweating like rain, nodded slightly to show her understanding. She gets it? Oda Mai put one of the swords back into its sheath. The blade of the other knife was reversed, and Oda Mai did not hesitate to cut the legendary family spirit-possessed weapon to her wrist. Phew. The moment Oda Mai cut her wrist, a large amount of blood spurted out. Some of the blood was evaporated into blood vapor by the high temperature the moment it was spurted out, but some of the blood strangely followed the lines of the knife, flowed upstream, and was completely drained by the blade in the blink of an eye. After absorbing Oda Mai's blood, the possessed weapon glowed scarlet. At the same time, a black shadow appeared silently behind Oda Mai. The shape of the black shadow looked like it was wearing a broken armor. I saw the black shadow slowly opening his arms and embracing Oda Mai in his arms. The deep black shadow behind Oda Mai actually for a moment forced back the flames of Queen Yanluo. In the firelight, Oda Wu remained motionless, standing as proud as a mountain. When she raised her head again, the color of her eyes was even more pure and frighteningly pure, devoid of any emotion, like a pool of stagnant water, bottomless. In her hand, only a knife remained. A long knife glowing with scarlet blood in the evil black energy. Could this be the ability of Oda Mai's spirit-possessed weapon? You still need to drink blood before activating? Was he drinking the blood of his master? When Oda Mai used her ultimate move, Queen Yanluo said softly, with a hint of confusion, but not too much trouble, as if this ultimate move was not taken seriously by the boss. Even so, the mocking effect seemed to be enough, and Queen Yanluo's attention was completely attracted by the blackened version of Oda Mai. Yulin immediately couldn't laugh or cry. You know nothing. Time was short and Yulin didn't have time to explain clearly. His original intention was to let Oda Mai find a way to deal with it on her own, so that he could lay out a route out of the situation in front of him. But Oda Mai directly fired her ultimate move. She knows a thing or two. Reading comprehension, 0 points. However, Yulin soon understood. Perhaps it was because Queen Yanluo put too much pressure on Mai Oda from the front, and the terrifying temperature made it impossible for Mai Oda to achieve the purpose of circling around without using her ultimate move. Mai Oda is not used to using her brain to fight monsters. But she seemed to have countless experiences wielding swords, and her keen martial arts intuition allowed her to directly use the hugely consuming spirit enchanting weapon skill in a very short period of time without having time to think. Behind Oda Mai, the dark shadow embraced Oda Mai and turned into a jet black air current, wrapping around Oda Mai's side like a flowing armor. Under the terrifying high temperature, the skin on Yulin's body peeled off, and sizzling white smoke came out all over her body. Even the blood flowing in her veins seemed to be boiling, giving Yulin a heartbreaking burning pain. Queen Yanluo didn't even make the slightest move, she just stood there, and the heat radiated from her caused the health points of Yulin and Oda Mai to drop crazily. If Yilin hadn't been strengthened by the Dionysus factor, she would have been able to continuously repair and regain blood without being instantly killed. Even with the frail body of his spiritual apostle, he is unable to lurk peacefully in this airtight hall like a microwave oven until now. Only a short minute has passed since I stepped into the Western restaurant. But in just this minute, Yilin's health value changed like the ebb and flow of the tide, up and down, which was very scary. He could even clearly feel an overwhelming sense of exhaustion welling up from deep within his body. With the Dionysus factor activated, Yilin's physical energy was rapidly depleted. Yilin quickly took out a piece of compressed biscuit, threw the whole piece into his mouth, and chewed it vigorously, using this insignificant move to replenish some of the lost physical energy. And at this moment, Queen Yanluo moved. Just like her title, Queen Yanluo is like the Emperor of Fire who controls everything at this moment, with wings spread out behind her back and a smile on her face, floating on the top of the Western restaurant, with a small leather whip burning with blazing fire in her hand, whipping towards my Oda. Passed. Snapped. As soon as the red whip was drawn out, before the sound could dissipate, a faint whip shadow seemed to have broken through the limitations of space. Ignoring the length of the whip, it was thrown directly in front of Oda Mai from a distance of more than 10 meters. That little whip didn't look that long. But the whip came anyway. Oda Mai had no expression on her face. She advanced instead of retreating. She raised her hand and slashed at the whip shadow. Queen Yanluo's attribute values are definitely at the ceiling level for the current Oda Mai and Yilin. Just from Queen Yanluo's skillful movements of whipping the whip, Yilin roughly deduced that Queen Yanluo's measurements, attributes were far beyond those of the two at this level, forming a crushing force. The moment Oda Mai swung the sword was silent, but the black airflow behind him was actually rolled onto the knife. The blade, which was glowing with red blood, was wrapped around the dark airflow, as if it was covered with a layer of armor visible to the naked eye. Slashed at Queen Yanluo's little leather whip. And until now, Yilin, who was ready, finally emerged from the shadows, smiled slightly, and took action suddenly. Big slap technique. Snapped. Oh. Queen Yanluo's face turned red instantly, like a ripe apple that could squeeze out water at any time. More red than flame. Oda Mai. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 264. As soon as Oda Mai barely blocked Queen Yanluo's whip, she saw Queen Yanluo suddenly showed something wrong and made a weird sound. She was stunned immediately. This. What did I miss? Let's go. After using the special skill Big Slap technique, Yilin looked solemn and shouted at my Oda. Oda Wu understood instantly. Although she didn't know what skills Yilin used on Queen Yanluo, judging from Queen Yanluo's reaction, Yilin's skills seemed very effective. Beforehand, Yilin also told Oda Mai the location of the exit of the Western restaurant. While Queen Yanluo clamped her wings in mid-air and fell into a state of freeze, Oda Mai moved quickly and jumped to the second floor with one step, running in the direction Yilin had told her in advance. For some reason, although Oda Mai did something that was inconsistent with her temperament at this time, but along the way, she got along with Yiren for a long time, and she inadvertently got a little bit of Yiren's style, a little bit. This sinister man. Oda Mai quickly passed by Yiren, and felt relieved when she saw the faint glimmer of confidence in Yiren's expression. Meet up after you get out. You clear out the mobs first. Good. The two passed each other and Yilin said quickly. No unnecessary nonsense. Just as Oda Mai believes in Yiren's cunningness, and Yiren also believes in Oda Mai's strength, in this case, there is no other way to get out of the current predicament except to hand over her back to the other party. Come out. The black airflow from Oda Mai's body suddenly dissipated. She silently put away the evil sword and replaced it with the most commonly used sword. It's too late, but it's soon. It only took a few seconds from the time Yilin condensed an oversized invisible slap and slapped it on Queen Yanluo's PP with all her strength until Oda Mai received Yilin's signal and left the Western restaurant. After a few seconds, Queen Yanluo, who was slightly absent-minded and moaning, finally came back to her senses. In the eyes that had not completely dissipated the charm, a cold murderous intention suddenly appeared. Humble reptile, you actually snapped. Yilin didn't talk nonsense. He held a knife in one hand and a pen in the other. No longer thinking about the consumption of spiritual energy, he used the rhythm of slapping Li Changa's face to continuously condense one big slap technique behind Queen Yanluo's back. Click left, click right, both sides fly together, the two dragons go out to sea, double-pronged attack, both palms out. In short, the rhythm is very fast, incredibly fast. Pot, 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 pot. Mid-air. Queen Yanluo actually moved left, right, up, and down, causing the flame wings behind her to shrink tightly, twitching slightly, and her whole body twitching. But for some reason, she could obviously use two wings to cover her back, so Yilin might not be able to attack. But Queen Yanluo may not have expected it, or she may have other unknown reasons. In short, she did not do this. Yilin was twitching mindlessly, thinking that the narration had indeed revealed Queen Yanluo's true attributes. If not, Yilin would not have thought of this method to deal with Queen Yanluo. The big slap technique is so terrifying. Yilin seemed relaxed, but in fact Yilin was also feeling very uncomfortable at the moment. Queen Yanluo's physique cannot be compared to that of a scumbag like Li Changa. It was not painful or itchy to slap Queen Yanluo with the same force as Li Changa's face. In order to achieve the desired effect, Yilin used the maximum power to crazily activate telekinesis and struck without mercy. After one round of pumping, regardless of the cost, Yilin's spiritual energy value had been consumed by less than half, unable to keep up with the natural recovery speed of the spiritual energy value. Yilin couldn't hold on to this kind of drawing method for long. But originally Yilin didn't plan to continue smoking for a long time, she couldn't afford it. After estimating the time Oda Mai left and the distance she had covered, Yilin prepared to take the next step. Queen Yanluo was worthy of being Queen Yanluo. In this unbearable state, she finally bit her lip, twisted her fingers, and looked at Yilin with her legs trembling slightly. At that moment, Yilin seemed to feel an invisible weight, like a mountain, crashing down from above his head. And Queen Yanluo's complex eyes are 3 parts shy, 3 parts angry, 3 parts resentful, and 1 part deeply hidden. If you have time to observe carefully, you may be able to taste more of this look. Means. However, Yilin was not free. Queen Yanluo didn't seem to have any intention of letting Yilin smoke her so unscrupulously. She couldn't bear it if he continued like this. She shook her palm in mid-air, and the whip struck through the air. That whip didn't seem to have any terrible special effects, nor did it stir up any storms, but the whip was burning red, like molten iron about to melt, and the darkness around the whip was twisted into overlapping shapes. But for some reason, the whip that was so straight when it was thrown at Oda Mai was turned into a snake-like shape in the hands of Queen Yanluo, moving crookedly. Yilin was a little confused, but she didn't dare to be careless. If she let the whip get on it, even if she might not die for a while, it would not be uncomfortable. Talk about it? Yilin's current state is a bit miserable. The quality of the school uniform seemed to be excellent. Even under this temperature, it did not completely melt and could barely cover her shame. But Yilin's skin had long been burned to a bloody pulp. Under the activation of the Dionysus factor, the burned epidermis was constantly repaired, and white flesh was constantly being regenerated. The heat alone made Yilin so miserable. If the whip hit her, the consequences would be disastrous. Yulin took a deep breath, no longer hesitated, stepped forward, and slapped the whip hard with the bottom of the pot. The whip was very fast, but because Queen Yanluo was uneasy, she whipped the whip into a weird snake-like position. This gave Yulin enough time to distinguish the position of the whip, and the pan hit it very accurately on the whip. In an instant, the seemingly ordinary pan made a crisp sound, and the small whip with a crooked trajectory finally hit the bottom of the pan. Queen Yanluo was full of disdain. A little pot that doesn't seem to have anything special, trying to block her whip? Reptile, you underestimate my professionalism. My training is unstoppable. But the next second, Queen Yanluo's eyes widened. The fire on the whip went out. Bye-bye. After blocking the whip, Yulin was sweating profusely, but she smiled at Queen Yanluo in mid-air, shook her hands, and ran towards the second floor. Bang 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 bang. Before leaving, in order to delay it for longer, Yulin was determined to throw out a few more big slap techniques. Although with this strength, it is estimated that Queen Yanluo's health will not even be lost, but it may be able to knock Queen Yanluo into unconsciousness, even for a moment, which will help Yulin escape. This time, Queen Yanluo fell into a state of stiffness again. Not only her wings, but also her legs were brought together. Clamped tightly. Yulin's agility attribute is now different from what it used to be. Queen Yanluo was stunned. Yulin followed the direction prompted by the narration and found the exit. The side door was wide open. Yulin ran out without hesitation, resolutely leaving Queen Yanluo with the figure of a scumbag leaving behind. Want to leave? Queen Yanluo rolled her eyes, furious, but didn't know what to do. When she saw Yulin was about to leave, she could only point her finger at Yulin's back from afar. In an instant. Bang 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 bang. A string of horrifying fireballs appeared out of thin air, like a string of beads, and exploded one after another behind Yulin. You forced me. The terrifying temperature behind him suddenly approached. The skin on Yulin's back made a whimpering cry. Like grilling meat. In this situation, Yulin gritted his teeth and did something he didn't want to do. With a thought in his mind, he slightly changed the shape of his palm, and the 5 fingers became 3. Then, from the bottom up, bo, oh ah. Behind him, there was a terrible sound. Well, very scary. Boom. Yulin quickly closed the door tightly. At the moment of closing the door, all heat is completely isolated by the door inside the scene. At this time, Yulin finally felt the coolness in the air and breathed a long sigh of relief. What a critical moment, my butt was almost cooked. Yulin's superficial wounds are repairing quickly. The feeling of exhaustion in my body surged over me. Yulin drooped her eyelids slightly, a little sleepy. But now is not the time to sleep. I knew with my butt that Queen Yanluo, who was ashamed, angry, and looking forward to her, would pursue her with all her might, and it was not advisable to stay here for a long time. Yulin put away her telekinesis. Entered eco-energy saving mode. The short confrontation with Queen Yanluo caused Yulin to consume a lot of spiritual energy. Now that the spiritual energy value is less than half, there is still room for use. So at this moment, Yulin only maintained the most basic following like a shadow in order to avoid Queen Yanluo's search and quickly sneak into the darkness. Yulin was not worried about how to find Oda Mai who had left first. In front of you. It was all corpses. Mutilated corpses. Corpses of various shapes. Weird corpse. Burned corpses. Overlapping corpses. There were various corpses, including those left by Mai Oda and those burned to death by Queen Enro. In short, these corpses paved the road. This is the mark left by Oda Mai. It's not hard to find. Damn dash. The terrifying howling sound rippled out from behind the corridor, From the Western restaurant Yulin walked out of not long ago, leaving heavy echoes. Haha, if it were an ordinary cruise ship, Queen Yanluo might be able to be completely burned through. But this is a scene created with the props of the tower. If it can be destroyed by you so easily, there won't be so many apostles who like to use this kind of scene cards to create fun. In a Western restaurant, seeing the series of fireballs hitting the rusty door without leaving any trace, Queen Yanluo's face became increasingly red. Maybe it's because of anger. Damn reptile. Humble reptile. Who is it? If the principal comes back and finds all this, no one can survive. It seems that this queen should also. Queen Yanluo put away the flame and muttered to herself in the darkness. Suddenly, she seemed to have remembered something, her eyes were bright, and there was a hint of fire, looking at the corner where Yilin and Oda Mai left one after another. Before leaving, you little reptiles thought you could leave alive. What if you were really allowed to leave? This queen will. As she spoke, Queen Yanluo smiled coldly and took a step forward. What's this? Queen Yanluo lowered her head inadvertently and noticed a strange, yellow object at her feet. It looks like the skin of a certain fruit. It looks like. It makes people a little bit reluctant to step on it. Queen Yanluo had many thoughts. But when she reacted, her little foot wearing high heels stepped on it involuntarily. Queen Yanluo. The next second. Queen Yanluo. All fours in the air. At the same time, Yulin estimated that Queen Yanluo was about to step on the banana peel. After turning the corner, there was a faint sound of a knife cutting on the flesh. 10 minutes later, Yulin caught up with Oda Mai. Looking from afar, there were corpses around Oda Mai's feet. 2 swords were unsheathed, one in each hand, hanging down diagonally, pointing to the ground, still dripping blood. Tick, tick, tick. The sound of blood dripping was intertwined with the sound of water dripping on the ceiling, tinkling, tinkling, like a song played by bells, making the shipwreck scene in front of me more lively and less gloomy. Of course, the prerequisite for not being eerie is that there are no corpses on the road and no sticky blood at the feet. When Yulin approached, in order to save spiritual energy, he had turned off like a shadow in advance. 10 steps away, Oda Mai suddenly turned around and pointed his long knife with killing intent. When Oda Mai saw clearly that it was Yurin coming from the dim light, she restrained her murderous intent and looked at Yurin approaching in silence. You killed a lot. Yulin was very emotional. Fine. Oda Mai nodded silently, paused for a few breaths, and then couldn't help but ask, where is the boss? You don't think I can kill her alone, do you? You think too much. Leave quickly. I'll find a way to get rid of Queen Yanluo. I shouldn't be able to catch up in a short time. Yulin took out the flashlight again. The second time. The light of the flashlight, illuminated by the light of the emergency light, condensed a beam of light, turning in front, guiding the way forward. Only when there is light around you can the flashlight shine. This is an annoying setting. Oda Mai also took out Yulin's compass. On the compass, the pointer was still pointing steadily in a certain direction. Yulin remained silent and stared at the pointer for a while. Suddenly, the pointer deflected slightly by half a minute. Oh. Yulin smiled, it looks like we are very close. The closer you get to the target, the compass pointer will also move when the target moves. Yulin is already very proficient in how to use the compass. After all, this compass from the heart has accompanied Yulin for most of the world. Oda Mai panted slightly and said nothing, as if she was silently recovering her blue blood, and also seemed to be silently recovering her blood. Although this cruise shipwreck maze scene is completely randomly generated based on the real terrain, Yulin has 2 props in his hands that can be called maze killers, and Oda Mai's desire to kill Luruyan is enough. Blazing, so it is not difficult to track Luruyan's movements. But what Yilin lacks most now is time. If he guessed correctly, Lu Ruyan would eventually reach that place under certain guidance. Yilin's only advantage is that the monster-killing efficiency of him and Oda Mai should be much higher than that of Lu Ruyan. The speed of traveling in the maze, as long as Lu Ruyan doesn't cheat, it is probably not as good as Lu Ruyan's. This is a life and death race. It's a life and death race about who can have the last laugh. Because of this, when she met Queen Yanluo by chance in a Western restaurant, Yilin had no intention of wasting time and escaped from Queen Yanluo's whip training as quickly as possible. If it weren't for the lack of time, Yilin might actually want to try it. After all, if you think about it carefully, Queen Yanluo is not completely invincible. Of course, this idea only remains at the stage of thinking. If Mai Oda was the only one, she might make the choice of being the queen of frontal hard anal sex. But Yilin knew very well that their purpose was to escape, not to kill monsters. When can I not kill monsters to gain points? Does it have to be in this kind of escape trial? The two moved forward quickly. After Oda Mai rested for a minute, her breathing became much calmer. Seeing that Mai Oda was still holding the two swords in her hands, Yilin asked casually as she walked away, "Is the two-sword style more efficient than killing monsters with one sword?" Oda Mai. I mean, wouldn't 3 knives be faster? Yilin took out Xiao Shizhen's ancient sword and showed it in front of Oda Wu. For example, the 3-sword style that is bitten in the mouth or something. Is there such a school? I can lend you one if you want, don't feel embarrassed. After all, we are in the same boat now. Oda Mai quickly walked a few steps faster. The way she looked at Yilin was strange. As if to say, is there something wrong with you? At the same time, Western restaurant. Queen Yanluo got up from the ground with a confused look on her face. What happened? What did this queen step on just now? Why did it fall like this? The buttocks that had just been spanked still had a slight tingling sensation, as if an electric current was flowing through it. But with such a fall, the evocative numbness instantly dissipated without a trace. Queen Yanluo feels very angry. The feeling of falling and hitting are completely different. On this point, Queen Yanluo can still distinguish clearly. Although the injury caused by falling to the ground was the same as scraping for Queen Yanluo was still very angry. If she has the attribute of anger value, or even in the form of a bar, then from now on, her anger bar should be rising and falling, one after another, ebbing and flowing, and with that fall, and rushed directly to the top. She was angry. The Western restaurant, which had been silent for a while, was once again filled with terrible heat waves because of Queen Yanluo's anger. All the rusty and rotten tables, tableware, fragmented chandeliers, and decorations were all melted into liquid state under the terrifying high temperature. Queen Yanluo was furious and took a few steps away with an expressionless face. I found another lump of yellow skin a few steps away. Ah, this? Again. Queen Yanluo laughed angrily. Humble reptile, do you think this despicable method can be effective again and again? Too naive. Do you really think that with a little bit of vulgar magic you can control this queen? This queen swears that I must, But it seems I can't help it. Impossible. But Eep. When Queen Yanluo reacted, she subconsciously stepped on the mysterious yellow object again with her high heels. The next second, Queen Yanluo was on all fours again. This fall made Queen Yanluo even more confused. Hurry up. Go, go, go. Kill, kill, kill. Perhaps it was because Yilin had hit so many death points that the complexity of this sunken ship was far beyond imagination. It is even completely separated from the structure of a normal cruise ship. Yilin and Oda Mai were fighting madly in the corridor. In order to restore her spiritual power, Yilin no longer uses any skills. Even following like a shadow, Yilin also used the jamming effect, turning it on and off for a while, and from time to time using the derivative application shadow leaving traces. Blood Jasmine kept appearing beside the demons, harvesting a lively but ferocious life. Under deliberate operation, Yilin's spiritual energy value was slowly rising at a certain rate. After a while, the spiritual energy value returned to more than half again. But in order to ensure the efficiency of killing monsters, you still have to use your abilities when you should. The pros and cons are all weighed by Yilin. Fortunately, Oda Mai was so powerful that she seemed to be transformed into a completely tireless killing machine at this moment. In the narrow space, she also gained experience, and various sword moves with weird names appeared one after another. If the situation had been different, Yilin might have had the time to crack melon seeds and appreciate Oda Mai's way of killing monsters. Oda Mai is worthy of being a warrior that even Amo Reni can't help but admire. Even in such high-intensity continuous killing of monsters, the efficiency is almost undiminished. One sword after another is crisp and streamlined to the extreme. The two of them kept moving forward like a pusher machine. Soon. During this process, Yilin used two props more frequently to confirm Lu Ruyan's position. I saw that the pointer on the compass was swinging more and more as Yilin and Oda Wu moved forward. Yilin kept changing the direction, tracking Lu Ruyan's position in the maze. On the compass from the heart, the pointer always points to the straight line between the target and the compass. But when Yilin changes its position slightly, with the swing angle and amplitude of the compass pointer, the virtual connections appear in Yilin's mind. Reorganizing, Yilin's brain was whirring, calculating Lu Ruyan's position through subtle changes in the pointer. Although this method consumes a lot of mental energy, at this point, Yilin can't do it without it. That is to say, only when the mental attribute is high can it be done. In the past, it was difficult to complete such operations and calculations due to lack of brain power. After Oda Mai casually chopped down a monster, her expression suddenly froze and she pointed at the end. There. Yilin was frantically calculating the approximate location of Lu Ruyan, poking at the mobs and multitasking. When she heard Oda Mai's words, she couldn't help but focus her attention and look in the direction Oda Mai was pointing. There lay scattered corpses. The corpse of a demon. It was not a corpse killed by the two of them. In other words, it's Lu Ruyan. The body is still warm and we are very close. Chase. Yilin didn't talk nonsense. If there were corpses on the ground, it would be easier to handle. This showed that the two of them had now caught up to the road Lu Ruyan had walked. Combining the compass and flashlight pointing, and feeling the warmth of the body, Yilin was almost able to locate Lu Ruyan's approximate location. Lu Ruyan must have been very anxious at this time. She was focused on escaping from here as soon as possible and had no time to deal with the bodies on the ground. She had no time to devise any anti-tracking tricks. After all, the entire cruise ship was covered with monsters, one after another. It was not easy for Lu Ruyan to break out of the encirclement, let alone take the time to deal with these corpses. Yilin imagined the route he and Oda Mai took along the way. Starting from the bottom of the cruise ship, it goes up and down, circling and interlacing. But their overall movement direction is from bottom to top. Yilin originally planned to send a few harassing messages to interfere with Lu Ruyan's actions. After all, it was really annoying to be shocked when receiving the messages. But Yilin only tried to send one message, and had no choice but to give up. The woman seemed to have expected that Yilin had such a skill, or maybe Lu Ruyan's death mark was in a special position, and she had already set Yilin to do not disturb mode. After confirming that Lu Ruyan was not far away in the maze, Yilin and Oda Mai moved faster to kill the monsters. They went back and forth. It could be said that without words, the two gradually developed some kind of tacit understanding. Often when Mama Oda would chop off the demon's head and tentacles, Yilin would silently move behind the demon, stab the heart with a knife, and take away the chaos value. Oda Mai had no complaints about Yilin's behavior of grabbing monsters. After all, Unlike Yulin, she can gain chaos points when killing monsters. Unless Yulin herself tells it, no one will know the secret. The two moved forward quickly. Another moment passed. Yulin and Myota followed the guidance of the compass and flashlight and climbed up a rusty vertical ladder. At the end of the vertical ladder, a circular manhole cover-like exit was wide open. There were still blood stains around the cover. It was sliding down the ladder. No one knew whose blood it was. Yulin's eyes narrowed and his head popped up quickly. Finally, Yulin reappeared under the sky of Styx Junior High School. This is, above the deck. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 265. The sky is still the same sky. Dark as ink. No stars or moon. It was like a cover hanging over Styx Junior High School. When she arrived on the deck, the sight in front of her made Yulin stunned for a second. The spacious deck is far beyond the scale of a cruise ship. It might be more appropriate to describe it as an aircraft carrier. But on the deck, the space was forcibly divided by mysterious forces. The buildings, classrooms, and canteens of Styx Junior High School were divided into squares of varying sizes and scattered messily on the deck. At first glance, Yulin seems to be in a city where time and space are confused, with rusty floors, buildings with scarlet paint, the round dome of the cafeteria, the transmitting tower of the cruise ship, all kinds of messy configurations, intertwined, very weird. This is the so-called randomly generated maze. After the original spatial structure is completely disrupted and reorganized, it is pieced together to form a space between reality and reality. If I have to say it, it is a bit like the subspace dual space where Yulin fought to the death with Zhang Huishun at the end of Huading City, but it is not completely similar. There is no exit in the dual space, and both sides of the duel will fight to the death. Only one of them dies, or both sides are wiped out after the time limit is up, in order to escape from the dual space. The scene generated by the scene card is really just a randomly generated scene. The apostle wants to do something with this scene, it all depends on his preference, and he can even play some new tricks in the scene that he wouldn't dare to do in the real world, but no one else will see it anyway. Oda Mai also popped up. She was also stunned by the spectacular scenery in front of her for a moment, showing a strange expression. After a brief moment of surprise, the two of them did not stay too long and immediately used flashlights and compasses to confirm Lu Ruyan's position at the same time. Over there. On the deck, there was no suspense about Lu Ruyan's position. The strange buildings on the deck were arranged, and obstacles blocked the two of them. Using a compass and a flashlight to confirm at the same time can save Oda Mai and Yuren many detours. The compass pointer was fixed. After confirming the direction of the compass pointer, Oda Mai rushed out half a step faster than Yulin. On deck, there were many demons fighting and eating, and the smell of blood wafted far away. This scene is like an ancient battlefield in another world, with bloody and twisted pictures, and the posture of demons snatching food. It seems that after a few more glances, people feel that the sand value is dropping crazily and gradually sinking. Yulin and Oda Mai quickly passed through the group of monsters. Not long ago, Yulin noticed a strange itching sensation coming from the location of the tumor on her back from time to time. It was a feeling that seemed to itch to the very core. But because they were busy chasing Lu Ruyan and it was inconvenient to walk in the maze, neither Yulin nor Oda Mai mentioned this matter. Now is not the time. At this time, under Yulin's intentional control, the spiritual energy value was almost full. When he reappeared under the sky, coupled with the itching on his back, Yulin had an ominous premonition lingering in his heart. No, to be precise, it's not a premonition, but inference. When a certain conclusion is deduced by Yulin, he would rather be wrong this time. Yulin took a deep breath. He looked back at Mai Oda. Along the way, Oda Mai was almost the one charging ahead. Yulin ensured that while not affecting the forward speed, she would conserve her strength as much as possible so that her psychic energy could be restored. At this moment, Oda Mai was covered in scars, her school uniform was in tatters, and her fleshy skin was exposed. Before the original blood stains dried up on Oda Mai's body, new wounds appeared. Fresh blood covered the original wounds and condensed into blood scabs. She looked a little miserable, but Mai Oda's expression remained as cold as a knife, unchanged. But her slightly messy breathing and steps revealed the fact that Mai Oda was very tired. At this point, Yilin no longer hid, and with a thought, the cute Nai Hongxiu and Bai Xiaoi appeared behind Yilin at the same time. The moment the two spirits appeared in the night sky, they quickly stared around. The fragmented space, the dark sky, the boundless green light, the ferocious monsters. Everything is in full view. They used the fastest speed to learn that the current situation of the little master was not optimistic. It's time for you to show up again, Xiao Hong and Xiao Bai. Nai Hongxiu. Bai Xiaoi. As a spirit-enchanted weapon, blood jasmine is, to a certain extent, equivalent to a piece of equipment that can grow. It's just the special nature of the twin souls that makes the upgrade process of blood jasmine slower than that of ordinary enchanted weapons. In short, double the happiness requires double the experience points. After several trials, Yilin finally upgraded blood jasmine from E level to D level enchanted weapon. Spiritual weapon blood jasmine. Soul binding Yilin. Spirit level D level, next level, 45/1000. Spirit possessing ability shape change, summoning spirits, unlocked, unlocked. Spiritual attributes add 10% sharpness, add 10% toughness, add 10% spirit, add 10% strength. Obviously, after being upgraded from E level to D level, the basic attributes of the weapon, sharpness, toughness, spirit, and strength are increased from 5% to 10%. Don't underestimate this mere 5% improvement. The shortcomings of Yilin's attributes are not to mention the strength attribute for the moment. Yilin's spiritual attribute was already as high as 7.5. With the addition of the spirit-possessed weapon, it soared to 8.25. Moreover, this was a percentage increase. In the later stages, the power of the spirit-possessed weapon on the apostle became even more terrifying. To have it and not to have it is a completely different world. Upgrade to the top enchanted weapon, and the attribute increase can exceed that of epic equipment. This is why, to the apostles, spirit-possessed weapons are treasures among treasures, and even epic-level equipment is far inferior. The upgraded blood jasmine also unlocked a brand new skill. Seance. Yilin smiled slightly. In an instant, the twin spirits of Bai Xiaoi and Nai Hongxiu floating behind Yilin turned into red and white light and disappeared behind Yilin. Yilin was wrapped in two colors of light. The red and white light flowed. In the mist, the red and white light resolidified. Starting from Yilin's collar, it quickly extended and reorganized behind her and towards her feet. When the light dissipated, Yilin appeared in front of Oda Mai with a new version and a new attitude, just like the little devil Balala transformed. Yilin's student uniform was replaced by an antique robe. Yilin was wearing a red and white robe, with long snow-white sleeves hanging casually, and the red coat outside looked exquisitely made, giving Yilin a mysterious and unpredictable temperament at this moment. Only. Oda Mai reacted quickly. After thinking about it for a while, I felt something was wrong. Why does this set of equipment look cool and simple, but why does it always look like women's clothing? Yilin was unwilling to use the skill in front of outsiders. After all, the posture when spiriting seemed to be a combination of the preferences of Bai Xiaoi and Nai Hongxiu. When he first used this ability of the spirit-possessed weapon, Zheng Wang he looked at the delicate patterns on his sleeves and was speechless for a long time. However, this is not important. Follow me. Similar to summoning spirits, double the happiness will naturally have double the consumption. In this state, although Yilin is strengthened by epic level buff, the consumption of spiritual energy is double that of ordinary enchanted weapons. Oda Wu calmed down, silently holding the knife, and followed Yilin. In front of the two of them was an endless sea of monsters. The faint green light was like stars in the night, flickering with fluorescent light on the deck of the fragmented space. Yilin put her hands behind her back and moved forward quickly. This posture is very much like the legendary Peerless Master, regardless of height or not, as long as he is powerful, it does give people this ethereal illusion. Yilin was in front, and Oda Mai followed closely behind. When the two quickened their pace and rushed into the group of monsters, the demon army quickly noticed the scent of the two. Whether they were mating, eating, or in a daze, all the demons, with green light in their eyes, focused on Yilin. Kill. For this group of demons, fresh food is always more appetizing than the mutilated corpses on the ground that are even mixed with the saliva of other demons. At this moment, Yilin abandoned the previous method of backstabbing and moved forward in a straight line with the highest profile, attracting the attention of all the demons. It's so thoughtful of you to come together. Yilin smiled slightly and opened and closed his eyes. The originally dark eyes turned as red as blood, but there was a little silver left in the center of the red pupils. If Oda Mai was lucky enough to see these blood pupils, she might be able to recognize them at a glance. These are clearly the eyes of the silver-haired female ghost in Gawu Mountain who cannot be killed. Kimi-yama. Suddenly, Oda Mai understood the origin of Yilin's gesture. Yilin, moved. Yilin put her hands behind her back and moved her mind at will. A ball of blood-like liquid was suspended behind her. Swish swish swish. A series of bloody blades, like tentacles, appeared from behind Yilin. The tentacles that were as sharp as a knife were spreading wildly and wildly. Behind Yilin, it was like a peacock spreading its wings, and like the 10,000 swords returning to the clan in the movie, a large blade directly crushed the monsters. Within the scope of his ability, everything he sees will eventually be strangled into pieces of flesh by countless sharp blades. Kill. Get chaos value add 222. Get chaos value add 255. Get chaos value add 289. Get chaos value add 276. Get chaos value. Ah. This feeling of being flooded with subtitles. Don't say it. Pretty good. But Yilin is at this moment. But there is no time to savor this sour and refreshing feeling. He flexibly manipulated countless sharp blades to kill everything in his way. After using her trump card, Yilin directly took the place of Oda Mai's meat grinder, frantically killing the monsters that kept coming in front of her. Only tentacle monsters can fight against tentacle monsters. Ahem. Whether it was the sharp teeth of the devil, various small fireballs or other small magic tricks that were not painful or itchy, or even tentacles with mouths, 10 steps away from Yilin, a wave of fire poured out from behind Yilin. All kinds of sharp blades mercilessly strangulated. This is a spirit seance. At this moment, he seemed to be one with Blood Jasmine's human spirit, taking on the shapes of Nai Hongxiu and Bai Xiaoi. He was thick, many, and sharp, and his lethality was considerable. This ability to integrate offense and defense has no other shortcomings except that it consumes a lot of money. Yilin estimated that in this posture, even if Mo-Ren enemy came, he would only be able to avoid the edge temporarily. Maybe. Under Yiren's efficient slaughter, Oda Mai slowed down a bit and followed Yiren without any force. After all, she couldn't steal it. As the saying goes, 1 inch is long and 1 inch is strong. The posture manifested by Yilin's ability is nearly 10 times longer than Oda Mai's sword. Unless Oda Mai risks being strangled by Yilin, she will really grab it. But Oda Mai was a little unhappy. But what I have to admit is that Yilin's efficiency in killing monsters at this moment far exceeds that of her knife. While observing silently, Oda Mai suddenly discovered that the trajectory of the countless sharp blades manipulated by Yilin when strangling the demon was vaguely familiar. This is... Oda Mai's heart sank, and she subconsciously tightened her grip on the scabbard, resisting the urge to draw the sword. The two pushed forward. Extremely fast. No monster can resist Yilin's footsteps. Drops of sweat broke out on Yilin's forehead, which was proof of the rapid depletion of psychic energy. Although this ability is long-lasting and powerful, it cannot last long. After all, the consumption is too huge. If we look at the way Yilin hides in the shadows and quietly kills monsters under like a shadow, the consumption of spiritual energy is like water dripping from a faucet. So at this moment, Yilin was equivalent to smashing the faucet with a hammer, causing the water pipe to explode and the water column to rush outward, which could not be suppressed. The chaos value on the screen has reached the point where Yilin is numb. Guide the way. Yilin strangled a small group of demons into minced meat. He took a short rest and said to Oda Mai behind him. Oda Mai's eyes flickered and she remained silent, but after Yilin spoke, she still obediently picked up the compass and observed carefully. The compass needle is erratic. Roughly pointing in a certain direction, but swaying slightly from side to side. Explanation: it's close. Yilin raised her head. Without saying a word, a needle silently condensed on his fingertips, and he stabbed it into his brain, stimulating a specific area of the brain. Partial activation locust feed. Yilin jumped up. Oda Mai pursed her lips and said nothing nonsense. She followed Yilin and stepped directly on the wall. She used her sword to gain strength and stepped onto a high place. From a high position, Yilin had a panoramic view of the scenery in front of her. On the deck where the space is intertwined and various buildings are divided, near the end, in the flickering green light, a delicate figure walks through the monsters at extremely fast speeds. It's Lu Ruyan. In what seemed like a long but actually short chase, Yilin and Oda Mai finally caught up with Lu Ruyan. Yilin sneered. Against the background of the ancient costume and temperament, this sneer was a little more indescribable and arrogant. Found it? Oda Mai clicked, popped out the blade, and said only one word. Cut. Heck to death. The two had very unified opinions and were united. With the blessing of the locust feet, Yilin's legs bounced, and with a slight jump, she flew high into the sky. Although Oda Mai doesn't have the same terrifying jumping ability as Yiren at the moment, she can barely follow Yiren with her physical fitness. 100 meters away. Lu Ruyan quickly eliminated the monster in front of him, panting. Finally. She breathed a long sigh of relief. With the help of hints, she actually walked out of this damn maze. Is it really okay for such a weird maze to suddenly appear in Styx Junior High School? The style of painting is obviously wrong, right? It won't be harmonious, right? As soon as this thought passed through his mind, Lu Ruyan was attracted by the broken building not far away. It was a split door. The three rooms connected together lay across the deck at an angle of 30 degrees. The ceiling was strangely cut off. The zigzag structure of the three rooms was clearly visible from Lu Ruyan's perspective. It's the exit. Lu Ruyan roared these words from her throat almost subconsciously, and her joy was beyond words. And right now, the narrator who had guided her forward countless times urged her again. Do not know why. Lu Ruyan felt that her back was getting more and more itchy. She scratched it a few times. After the itching was relieved for a while, she had no time to think too much and focused on following the narrator's prompts to navigate the maze. When the exit was right in front of him, the narration appeared again, and Lu Ruyan's little heart that had just had time to relax was suddenly lifted again. Through your unremitting efforts, you finally arrived here. You deserve all this. No matter what the outcome is, you believe that you will be the one with the last laugh. But at this moment, you are keenly aware of a presence called murderous aura coming from behind. Don't look back, because he is right behind you. Please choose. Lu Ruyan's pupils shrank slightly. She didn't have time to examine the options. She turned around subconsciously. In the night sky, a terrifying, tentacle monster flew into the sky with a ferocious expression. Behind the tentacle monster, countless blood-red sharp blades are twisting and turning, very scary. It's the tentacle monster. Oh no, it's him. 1 second later. Lu Ruyan turned pale with fright. She suddenly remembered the corpse that was chopped into 17 pieces in the secretary's office. It turns out that man actually has some kind of terrifying skill similar to transforming into a tentacle monster. So scary. Terrible. Inhuman. Totally unconscionable. Without saying a word, Lu Ruyan seemed to have unleashed all her potential under the invisible oppression. No longer caring about maintaining an elegant posture, she quickly climbed up the half-suspended Z-shaped building. In the 3 connected rooms, the furniture in the room was scattered. The dark red light that originally filled the secret room with emotion had long been extinguished. Lu Ruyan used his hands and feet, half crawling and half running, and soon arrived at the secret room behind the vice principal's office. The big round bed has long since disappeared. I wonder if I was randomly transported to other parts of the sunken ship. But that's not important. The tentacle monster behind her was approaching quickly, and she felt that time was running out. In the center of the room, there is a huge circular pattern, carved with countless mysterious words and patterns, forming a complete pattern. Each pattern is carefully carved and has the same depth. In the center of the pattern, there is a regular prismatic groove, but the groove is empty. Although Lu Ruyan was panicking, at this critical moment, her hands did not shake at all. She quickly took out the key props that had been stolen from Yilin's storage space not long ago. Pure dark crystal was pressed hard into the groove. Click. Pure dark crystal. Yilin originally dug it out from the center of the pattern. When he pressed it up again, it naturally fit perfectly and there would be no inappropriate size. After the dark red crystal returned to its original position, all the lines began to show red light, as if blood was slowly flowing in the delicate texture. Please pronounce the 18-digit term accurately. After entering the term, the teleportation array can be successfully opened. Lu Ruyan didn't want to delay even for a second. Because the tentacle monster is right behind him, chasing after him hard. But, only she can have the last laugh. Ha ha ha. Lu Ruyan already laughed out loud in her heart and screamed at her disapproval. She began to chant in a low voice with her proficient basic devil language. She already knew the 18-digit devil's language. For her, if Yilin hadn't been prepared and took away the pure underworld crystal, she would have left this damn trial long ago. Following Lu Ruyan's low singing, the teleportation array used to escape from this world suddenly glowed brightly. A red beam of light rose into the sky. At the end of the light pillar in the void, there seemed to be an invisible hand, quickly outlining strokes, and the light of the strokes quickly took shape. If Lu Ruyan had time to observe carefully, she would have discovered that the huge magic array pattern outlined at the end of the light beam was exactly the same as the pattern under her feet. The teleportation array has started to activate. And right now, during the chanting process, Lu Ruyan was fully focused, but for some reason, the narration and options appeared in front of her eyes again. At a time like this, what's the point of multiple choice questions? Lu Ruyan remained silent. Unintelligible syllables came out of his mouth. To be honest, she couldn't figure out the meaning of these words. So all she mastered was the elementary demonic language. She just followed the example and read out those strange words. So there is almost no need to use your brain to think. Instead, she had time to read the multiple choice questions in front of her. This may be the last question. Suddenly, when Lu Ruyan saw the options clearly, her delicate body trembled, and as if by mistake, she gently clicked on one of the options. Far away. Yulin looked up at the light beam dozens of meters away and the rapidly sketched textures in the sky. He instantly recognized that the texture outlined in the sky was exactly the same as the teleportation array carved on the floor of the secret room. Although Yulin cannot recognize the words and graphics on it, rote memorization is Yulin's strength. Yulin blindly guessed that when the teleportation array in the sky is completely outlined, the creatures in the teleportation array will leave this world. After all, this is the ultimate method used by the vice principal to escape from his wife. 10 seconds. Yulin quickly estimated the speed of the lines drawn in the sky. This is the last chance. Oda Mai also noticed that something was wrong in the atmosphere, and her expression was cold. Yulin suddenly jumped into the sky. They were only 100 meters away from Luruyan. They seemed very close, but in fact they were very far away. Just because the speed of the teleportation array lines in the sky is too fast. Once Luruyan completes the outline of the teleportation array, the distance between them is equivalent to 2 worlds apart. Yulin could almost imagine that Luruyan was definitely using very skilled ventriloquism to sing this obscure and complicated language. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 266. There is no time. Yulin smiled instead of getting angry. Dance. Yulin's legs made an overwhelmed sound. Click click click. Like a tightly wound clockwork, it is about to spiral into the sky. At this time, Yulin only had time to say one word. But after fighting all the way, the two unknowingly formed something called tacit understanding. Don't get me wrong, it's just a tacit understanding of killing monsters. Although the word tacit understanding seems to have a bit of a fishy smell. But the moment their eyes met, Oda Mai did understand Yulin's plan. Just in line with the old saying, check your eyes, I understand the person you want to kill. Clang. A dazzling sword light poured out from the scabbard. Draw your sword. But this time, instead of the blade moving forward, Oda Mai turned her hands and put the backs of the 2 swords in front of her. Boom. Yulin gathered enough strength and flew high. The 5th second. While Yulin was falling, Oda Wuxin moved at will, holding 2 swords, and jumped into the air. The 2 swords, cut out. Around Oda Mai, the back of the knife made a strange hissing sound when it rubbed against the air. The 2 knives formed a cross and struck Yulin's soul exactly. Good. The enhanced jumping power, coupled with the force converted from the gravitational potential energy when falling from a high altitude, made Yulin's feet press hard on Oda Mai's 2 swords. At this moment, Mai Oda, with her mortal body, acted as Yurin's pedal. The 2 knives were bent deeply under Yurin's foot strength, as if they would be broken at any time. That terrifying force didn't just fall on Oda Mai's sword. The moment Yulin exerted his strength, Oda Mai's arms actually inflated like blowing balloons. There were already scars on the snow-white arms. Under the pressure of this force, Oda Mai's arms had not yet moved. The healed wounds burst open one after another, and blood spurted out again. Time suddenly stopped. 7th second. Yulin has already started chanting in advance, meeting the restrictions for activating the skill. From now on let the world feel. Mai Oda, who had always been calm and composed, was under great pressure at this time and couldn't help but roar. The next second, 2 long knives pressed into an arc pressed against Yulin's feet, and Oda Mai fiercely chopped them out. Boom. The moment Oda Mai forced out the sword against Yurin's elasticity, Yurin also used the back of Oda Mai's sword as a pedal, and her whole body was ejected like a cannonball, flying into the night sky. After wielding the knife, Oda Mai let out a groan. The injuries on his body, as well as internal and external troubles, broke out at the same time. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood, which flew out backwards. The air wave and force caused by Yulin's ejection rushed Oda Mai onto the deck, making a loud bang. This hit actually made an explosion-like sound effect. Fortunately, There were enough corpses on the deck, which provided a lot of buffer space for Oda Mai. Otherwise, if she fell in this situation, Oda Mai, even a melee apostle with enhanced strength sensitivity on both sides, would definitely not be able to withstand this kind of impact. After falling from the air, Oda Mai's health bar bottomed out instantly and almost became a box. Let's talk about Yulin popping out. In the sky. The light of the teleportation array has almost been outlined. Yulin could roughly guess the progress of Luruyan singing from the magic array in the sky. In the blink of an eye. Just for a moment. Yulin flew over the heads of countless demons. Everything happens in a flash of lightning. The cooperation between Yulin and Mai Oda seems simple, but the mystery and timing may not be completely replicated by others. He and Oda Mai fought all the way, and peeping from time to time, he was already very familiar with Oda Mai's moves, and even the techniques for exerting force, body postures, and subtle tremors were all caught in Yulin's eyes. Perhaps even Oda Mai couldn't imagine how deeply Yulin knew her. Yulin has almost formed a visual memory of every move of Oda Mai. Without thinking, she can guess a rough idea of Oda Mai's next move. Of course, Oda Mai's hidden strength is beyond Yulin's peeping range. A brief exchange of eyes and an impromptu plan allowed Yulin to cross 100 meters in an instant. In mid-air, Yulin also saw Luruyan's figure clearly. The spell that he had yet to fully chant was completed in an instant. Pain. Speaking very fast. Almost condensed into one syllable. Never mind, it doesn't matter whether you heard him or not. It's like a tongue twister. Is it said just to be heard clearly? Yulin was just trying to meet the conditions for using the skill. Disaster plagued. The invisible power of disaster fell mercilessly on Luruyan's head the moment Yulin activated her skill. People squat in their rooms, and disasters come from the sky. After Yulin used spirit conjuring, her spiritual energy value was already consumed hugely. After using disaster haunting again, her spiritual energy value was lost even more suddenly. Yulin suddenly felt a strange feeling in her body. There was an illusion of being suddenly hollowed out. There was a stinging pain in the center of my eyebrows, and my brain was buzzing. But no matter what the consumption, Yulin's shot was still biased to Luruyan. Although Calamity Haunted tastes better if used continuously, Yulin has no spare energy points at this moment and needs to use a few more shots. After all, he was gutted. Luruyan, who was trying to recite an obscure language, was shaken all over. His eyes suddenly rolled up. His whole body was twitching like an epileptic seizure. A trace of mucus was dripping from the corner of his mouth. His expression looked like it was completely broken. Dolls. Bingo. In mid-air, Yulin did not stop moving, and violently rolled the countless tentacles behind her. No, they were sharp blades. He adjusted his posture and landed, preparing to strangle the woman who had taken out his things into foam. Because he is concerned about the coming doomsday, and for the sake of that day, in order to leave more apostles of the Order camp to mankind, as long as he has a choice, he will generally not kill all the apostles in the trial. But at this moment, Yulin had murderous intentions towards Luruyan. Even if Yulin doesn't kill Luruyan, there has already been a gap between the two of them in this world. Even if he and Luruyan can eventually return to the real world, Luruyan may take the initiative because he is worried about Yulin's revenge. Take action. The most complicated thing in the world is not the other world, nor the mess of skills and abilities, but the human heart. Not to mention women. So, kill. Have nothing to say. Suddenly. In the dark sky. The teleportation magic array that was about to be completed stalled for a moment when Luruyan suffered the disaster-ridden effect. But the pause was only for a moment. The broken Luruyan's lips opened, squirmed, and grinned strangely, and she continued to sing at a faster speed. In the blink of an eye. The teleportation array shines brightly. A complete beam of light completely engulfed Lu Ruyan and connected with the light of the completed formation outlined in the sky. The teleportation array is actually completed. But Lu Ruyan is clearly still under the effects of the disaster. In Yilin's original plan, disasters were lingering, and no matter what random effects, even the most insignificant blinding, could hinder Lu Ruyan's singing. This was enough for Yilin to reach Lu Ruyan's head and use the twisted tentacles behind her to bring down justice. But the blood in Yilin's eyes surged, and countless sharp blades gathered into a terrifying giant sword, which fell from the sky and strangled Lu Ruyan in the center of the light without reservation. The light of the teleportation array disappeared in a flash. Before the light disappeared, the twisted red blade, shaped like a spiral drill, was not blocked by the scarlet light at all. It penetrated directly and drowned Lu Ruyan's beautiful figure. Apostle 1010, kill the second level apostle and obtain death points, 756 points. The current number of death points remaining, 19,482. Get chaos value at 354. Yilin landed on the teleportation array. He looked at the teleportation array in front of him that had lost its light and remained silent. Everything was so unexpected. The light of the teleportation array only flickered for less than a second, and then dimmed instantly. It's like someone using a camera to turn on the flash and click. In the center of the teleportation array, there lay a pile of broken corpses once named Lu Ruyan. Although the corpse was hanged in a tragic manner, Yilin could still barely recognize Lu Ruyan's former shape. Headless. The head was passed away. But she is still dead. The reminder from the tower is proof. I chopped her into pieces with my own hands. Immediately afterwards, a box that only Yilin could see emerged from the pile of minced meat. Well, even the box came out, and Lu Ruyan died, a real hammer. But the teleportation array was still activated. When she died, her head was teleported away. At the last moment, Yilin's spiral knife array that she had not yet had time to name, although it emptied all of Lu Ruyan's health points, she still continued to sing inexplicably, completely outlining the teleportation array. The moment before death, Lu Ruyan was not allowed to leave alive, only her lifeless head was taken away. The attribute description of the pure underworld crystal in the center of the teleportation array is very clear. The energy possessed by the underworld crystal is only enough to activate the teleportation array once. Snapped. The pure underworld crystal is dull and full of cracks. Yilin stepped forward, ignoring the broken corpses on the ground, and stretched out his hand to gently touch the Mingjing. The pure Mingjing was slightly poked by Yilin and shattered into powder, with no possibility of recovery. Yilin lowered his head, not in the mood to touch the box. Oh, this setting is also normal. This teleportation array is originally reserved by the vice principal as an emergency escape channel in case the affair is discovered. How can he leave the energy for the second use? Let his wife follow the teleportation array to provide. Are you chasing me with a knife? Yilin lowered his head, his expression seemed a little downcast. The only way out is gone. Completely gone. It's gone. 5 minutes later. Oda Mai was covered in blood and came to kill with a knife. It was really terrifying that she dragged her scarred body all the way to this point. Oda Mai saw Yuren sitting with her head down next to a pile of minced meat. Next to the minced meat was a torn women's school uniform. In the center of the teleportation array that lost its light, only a pile of powder remained. After looking at the crime scene, a trace of surprise appeared on Oda Mai's pale face. She pursed her lips, and after a long time, she slowly spoke. You lose. Yilin lowered her head. Oda Mai pointed the long sword at Yilin from afar. Yilin still lowered her head. Oda Mai shook her head slightly, her voice cold. I'm so disappointed in you. Finished. Oda Mai swung his sword, and drops of demon blood fell not far from Yilin. Oda Mai never looked at Yuren again, turned around and prepared to leave. Did not expect. Yilin said leisurely at this moment, "Where are you going?" Oda Mai took another step forward and hummed softly. "It's like saying, it's none of your business. Don't you think that I didn't stop Lu Ruyan from launching the teleportation array? Now that I have lost the hope of final escape, I am depressed and have lost my will. Now I have become very discouraged, dispirited, discouraged, decadent, depressed, and negative. Are I going to squat here and wait to die?" Oda Mai was slightly startled and her steps paused. "Is not it?" She turned back. A hint of cold light emerged from Yilin's eyes. "I'm just unhappy." "Huh, very unhappy. But, the main mission is still there, isn't it?" As he spoke, Yilin finished thinking and casually touched the box beside him. "Well, don't forget to lick the bag. Get the Phantom Thief's magic cloak." Equipment. Yilin looked at the attributes. The Phantom Thief's magic cloak. Grade rare. Durability 456/500. Effects slow down and after image magic. Click to view details. Explanation: one of the three-piece set of Phantom Thieves. With it, you can come and go like the wind, and you will not fall to death easily even if you are knocked down. The card's pattern is a dark cloak with a dark purple background, exuding a mysterious aura. Yilin suddenly remembered that Lu Ruyan had stolen the pure nether crystal prop Phantom Thief's notice from his storage space. From this point of view, it is possible that Lu Ruyan completed a series of tasks during a certain trial and obtained props and equipment related to the Phantom Thief. Maybe there is also supporting capabilities. Although it was a pity that he didn't draw a skill, he was able to draw a piece of equipment that obviously looked good and had no restrictions on charm and luck. Yilin felt like he had exhausted all his luck. Maybe he could still get it if he went back. Can burn incense sticks for ancestors. Ah, wait. My parents are gone, where can I find my ancestors? Such painful thoughts came to Yilin's mind. Before she could be happy, she became entangled again, and Yilin silently put away the Phantom Thief's magic cloak. Although the active skill of the Phantom Thief cloak has a full 1-hour cooldown, if used at a critical moment, it may achieve unexpected results. And the color of this cloak matched perfectly with the gentleman's suit inexplicably, and Yilin couldn't help but think of a new version of the kryptonite look. Not bad. Yilin did not put on the cloak. After finishing licking the cloak, Yilin raised her head and looked at Oda Mai with a smile. Although Oda Mai didn't understand why Yilin could still laugh now. But this weird smile made Oda Mai couldn't help but believe that this insidious man might have a backup plan. Well, this insidious man must have another solution. Oda Mai came to a conclusion silently. While thinking about it, Oda Mai stood proudly on her back and felt a little itchy. Itching on the back. But there was no way she would scratch her back in front of Yilin, as it would hurt her character. She looked towards Yilin silently. That look seemed to be asking, what should we do next? Yilin, next. Oda Mai. Take off your clothes first. Oda Mai. She didn't say anything and just came to see him with her sword drawn. Yilin did not behave like an animal. Before Oda wielded the knife and chopped it off, he quickly explained, don't forget, there is something behind us. Oda Mai's sword was just about to slash out and kill the beast in front of her. When she heard this, Oda Mai was slightly startled and suddenly understood. You're thinking. Yilin put away her smile, looked solemn, and nodded. A few seconds passed. Oda Mai hasn't taken off her clothes yet. Yilin thought for a moment, forget it, let me go first. Before Lu Ruyan died, Yilin was almost able to determine the meaning and truth of the existence of the tumor behind her. But the tumor looked really hideous and terrifying, and Yilin wasn't sure whether there would be any terrible reaction when it was pulled out. For example, a big spurt of blood or something like that. It would be okay if there was a massive spurt of blood, as the Dionysus factor was strengthened enough for Yilin to deal with such injuries calmly. Yilin is worried about more bizarre and unpredictable situations. At this point, Yilin can no longer tolerate hesitation. If they don't do this, the two of them will have nowhere to go. Thinking of this, Yilin quickly took off her shirt. Oda Wu came to Yilin's back with a sword in hand. She suddenly took a breath. Yilin, what? Oda Mai shook her head, but didn't say much. When she was about to use the knife on Yilin's back, Yilin suddenly remembered that he seemed to be able to do it himself. He immediately stopped Oda Mai. Hey, don't chop it yet, I will do it myself. After hearing this, Oda Mai silently stepped aside without any objection. In fact, it was a bit reluctant to ask Oda to perform such a minor surgery. After all, Oda Mai has learned all her life how to use a knife to cut people to death. This kind of small operation that cannot cut people to death is a bit difficult. If he is hacked to death, he will be hacked to death. On the contrary, Oda Mai was happy to let Yilin do it herself. Yilin waved her hand and summoned Xiao Bai. When Bai Xiaoi appeared, she was a little confused. She had just finished, and Yilin called her out again. Is she still finished? Yilin didn't talk nonsense and said, insert the eyes, do you understand? Bai Xiaoi pursed his lips, I understand, but master, you are so ruthless, it makes me very sad. Complaints were complaints. Seeing Yilin's solemn tone, Bai Xiaoi didn't dare to joke, so she quickly flew into the air and floated behind Yilin. After the spirit-enchanted weapon Blood Jasmine was upgraded, Bai Xiaoi's spirit body seemed slightly more solid. Oda Wu simply sat aside, holding the knife and watching silently. One of the benefits of twin spirits is that they can be used separately. Yilin used Bai Xiaoi to provide vision, and at the same time used Nai Hongxiu's form changes without interfering with each other. The blood jasmine turned into countless blood threads, like hair, and under Yilin's control, carefully moved around her back. Yilin also switched her vision to Bai Xiaoi. The moment she switched her field of vision, Yilin quickly understood the reason for Oda Mai's mood swing just now. It was only a day apart from the last time I took off my clothes. But the sarcoma on Yilin's back actually doubled in size. Countless pseudopods stretched out more pseudopods, sinking deeply into Yilin's back. There was a tangled patch of trees around it like tree roots. The blood vessel-like bulges look very hideous and terrifying. As expected. That buff is not a time limit at all, but, the time for this tumor to grow. But generally speaking, if you don't notice the weirdness in the trial, it will be difficult to discover this matter. If we wait until the end, all of us will people become puppets. Yilin's expression remained unchanged as countless flexible bloodshot threads suddenly dug around the sarcoma on her back. After picking at the root of the sarcoma under the skin, Yilin frowned, gritted her teeth, and directly pulled up the sarcoma by the roots. The pain in that moment made Yilin's vision suddenly go black and he almost fainted. But because Yilin had already been mentally prepared, she endured the severe pain without saying a word. Chi 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 chi. The moment the sarcoma was pulled out by Yilin, the tumor suddenly seemed to come to life and struggled wildly. The pseudopods suddenly bulged, as if they were unwilling to leave Yilin's back. The twisted pseudopods were mixed with Yilin's back. Lin's flesh and blood twisted wildly, like a nest of insects. Hizzy. The sarcoma made a weird noise. Before the sarcoma was completely pulled out, the narrator in front of Yilin frantically refreshed the screen. You can't do this. Forcibly pull it out and you will die. Will die miserably. You will. Please select. Yilin did not narrate at all, and pulled out the tumor completely bit by bit. The blood was twisted, and in the blink of an eye, the tumor pulled out from the back was minced into minced meat. No confusion value. Yilin gasped for air while also noticing something strange. In other words, this parasite-like tumor is not alive. So what is it? The moment the sarcoma was pulled out, the narrator stopped abruptly. The world is completely clean. No more narration. Hee hee. Yulin smiled slightly. I humming believe you. After the sarcoma was pulled out, a terrifying blood hole was left on Yulin's back, bleeding out. But soon, at the moment when the injury was detected, the Dionysus factor in the body was activated very competently, and the flesh and blood on the edge of the wound squirmed and was quickly repaired. Add 5%. Add 5%. Add 5%. Ah, after pulling it out, Yulin felt as if her body had been hollowed out, and waves of fatigue came over her. Oda Mai saw everything that happened to Yulin. She couldn't help but raise her eyebrows, and a flash of light flashed in her eyes. It's very durable. Oda Mai's voice was very small. After Yulin finished treating the sarcoma, her eyelids drooped slightly, she turned her head and couldn't help but ask, "What did you just say?" Oda Mai quickly shook her head and suppressed the idea of cutting her head. Obviously, in this trial, Yulin was classified by Oda Mai into the temporarily unkillable category. Unless, I can't help it. Yulin didn't know that Oda Mai had silently labeled herself as resistant to cutting. He turned around and smiled, "This is the little secret of my ability." Oda Mai nodded and said she understood, "I won't tell anyone." Yulin gave a thumbs up and liked Oda Mai's success. Enduring the exhaustion, Yulin put away Suisi and Bai Xiaoi. Far away, green light began to appear again. Yulin and Mai Oda cleared a wave of monsters on the deck, and more demons began to rush in, seemingly endlessly. Yulin knew that he could not delay any longer, so he put on a serious expression that would not make Oda Mai think twice. "Are you going to do it yourself, or am I going to do it?" Oda Mai lowered her head and remained silent. Yulin thought for a while, and of course he would not naively think that this woman was shy, so he said, "But you have to think about it. When the sarcoma is cut out, it will cause a lot of blood loss. If you don't have a physique like mine, it's easy." Yulin hasn't finished speaking yet. Oda Mai turned her palm over and put a small card into Yulin's hand. The next moment, she turned around with a calm expression. She took off her clothes and the belt on her chest, exposing her white back to Yulin. Behind Oda Mai, the tumor also grew to the size of a small basin, covering almost half of her back. Yulin couldn't help but take a second look at the snow-white and delicate skin. Although this body is equivalent to a copy-like existence, it is still somewhat similar to the original body. Yulin looked at the small card in her hand. Properties appear before your eyes. Yulin. Seeing Yulin's delay in taking action, Oda Mai couldn't help but hum. Yulin chuckled and said, "I just feel a little incredible." Oda Mai. Why do you make me feel so uncomfortable when you use props? Oda Mai. After Yulin finished speaking, she raised her hand and scraped the blood streaks towards Oda Mai's back. "Thank you to Mr. Centipede for your support. I still have to go to work before I get extra time. Make up for it someday. Definitely next time." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Xueshi. Chapter 267. Countless blood streaks formed by blood jasmine were about to poke into the fleshy tumor on Oda Mai's back. Oda Mai's whole body suddenly tensed up. His right hand pulled out to his waist involuntarily. "Draw the sword." Narrations poured out crazily in front of her eyes. "Go quickly. You can't trust him. He cheated on you. You will die here. The key behind your back will be your only hope for survival. You make your choice instantly. A, let's go. B, leave immediately. C, there is a mole, stop this operation. Oda Mai." Yulin noticed Oda Mai's involuntary movements, and he roughly guessed Oda Mai's current situation. His eyes flashed and he said, "Trust me." "Good. Oda Mai didn't talk nonsense, she pressed her hand tightly. But at this moment, she actually felt like her body was out of control. She obviously didn't have this idea, but her right hand still involuntarily pulled out the knife at her waist. But who is Mai Oda? She is a ruthless person who can kill people without even recognizing them. Oda Mai slapped her other hand fiercely and held her right hand tightly. The right hand that was ready to move trembled slightly under Oda Mai's pressure. Haha, are you starting to be unable to bear it now? Yilin began to feel happy, with a stern smile on her face. The bloodshot claws instantly followed the shape of the tumor and pierced Oda Mai's back. Oda Mai groaned, but did not make a sound. Zhizhizzy. After Yilin took action, the sarcoma on Oda Mai's back suddenly looked like a rat thrown into a frying pan. The sarcoma shrank, and countless pseudopods were like roots digging into Oda Mai's flesh and blood, refusing to let go easily. Leave. Yilin has no intention of pitying her now. Besides, for such a fierce female man, why does Yilin need to be sentimental and pity her? Bo. Yilin was merciless, and in an instant, the tumor was pulled out from Oda Mai's back like a cupping cup. At the moment when the sarcoma was pulled out, the sarcoma was strung on the blood thread, struggling endlessly, and stretched out a series of pseudopods, rushing towards Oda Mai's bloody back, as if it was still trying to return to its original position. Hiss. With a thought in Yilin's mind, the bloodshot strangulation was activated, and in the blink of an eye, the piece of fleshy tumor pulled out from Oda Mai's back was strangled into stinky minced meat that could never be put back together again. Sarcoma, complete silence. Behind Oda Wu, even the spine was exposed. The white bones, gushing blood, fresh meat, and snow-white shoulders formed a miserable scene in front of Yilin. During the whole process, except for holding her right hand tightly, Oda Mai's body did not move at all. But judging from her slightly trembling shoulders, Oda Mai also suffered tremendous pain when Yilin pulled out the sarcoma. Yilin understands this very well. If she can keep herself from shouting, Mai Oda deserves to be called a female man. Behind Oda Mai, blood spurted out. Boo-hoo-hoo. The moment the tumor was pulled out, Oda Mai's right hand stopped all movement and was under her control again. In her panel, the health value is continuously decreasing with the rapid flow of blood. Apparently, she was in a negative state of blood loss. Yilin raised his eyebrows and silently gave Oda Mai a thumbs up. Then he put away the knife and crushed the card he had prepared. An oversized cross-shaped band-aid appeared in Yilin's hand. This is exactly the prop that Oda Mai prepared in advance not long ago. Extra large band-aid. Grade rare. Effect completely stop bleeding. Duration, 24 hours. Instructions, click to view details. Snapped. Yilin moved quickly and skillfully, tearing open the small wings, and directly slapped the big ant's bandage, the oversized band-aid on Oda Mai's back. Moment. The surging blood stopped abruptly. There really wasn't a trace of leakage on the surface. The props produced in the tower must be of high quality. Although it looks a bit weird, Oda Mai is obviously very satisfied with this effect. After completely eliminating the last hidden danger behind the two of them, Yilin looked into the distance and looked at the group of demons moving in the darkness. The demons were already going crazy, with green light surging in the distance, eating the corpses around them, but it seemed that they hadn't noticed anything strange here for a while. Because Yilin and Oda Mai rushed all the way here, they left a lot of food on the deck, which was able to attract the attention of the demons. The narrator has already mentioned that one before. Food is very important to you. Yilin quickly turned around, giving Oda time to tidy up after the dance. 3 minutes later. After the two finished their work, they quickly changed their clothes. In the dark night, the skeleton gentleman's kryptonite-looking suit made Yilin feel more at ease. By the way, he was equipped with the brand new equipment that he had obtained from the bag not long ago. The Phantom Thief's magic cloak. Paired with a black tuxedo, there is no sense of inconsistency, as if it was originally a set. Calm, elegant and charming. The effect of the magic cloak might deceive the opponent's attack at a critical moment and give Yi-Lin a chance to counterattack. What's more, Yi-Lin has the ability to follow him everywhere, and this equipment seems to be tailor-made for him. It is very likely that there are not many props left in Lu Ruyan's storage space. Otherwise, with Yi-Lin's luck, it would generally be difficult to extract such things. Really? Killing people, stealing goods, and licking the bags is far more reliable than expecting random rewards at settlement. But Yi-Lin soon put this terrible thought out of her mind. The two of them were dressed up and ready to go. Oda Mai's expression was slightly pale, but she had no strange expression. She was still sitting there, as if waiting for Yi-Lin's decision. After all, she didn't know who to kill next. In the dark night, Yi-Lin, who has changed her appearance, seems to be a different person. There was an evil aura all over his body. Yi-Lin smiled. You should understand now, right? Oda Mai shook her head. I don't understand. Yi-Lin's smile suddenly froze, and she could only explain helplessly, from the beginning, including the dead Han Han, Lu Ruyan, and Cao Tian Tian, they all misunderstood one thing. The narration or multiple choice questions that frequently appear in front of us are actually not official tips from the tower at all, but, in this school, there is a mastermind hidden behind the scenes. Through the sarcoma behind, sending those narrations and multiple choice questions into our brains. Perhaps that being doesn't know the existence of the tower, or our brains actively simulate this hint into the tower's prompt. In short, no matter what, the purpose of the narration is finally achieved. It succeeded. Fooled us. As time goes by, that sarcoma will completely take over the body and become that person's puppet so that it can successfully achieve a certain purpose. This is the biggest trap of narration and multiple choice questions. Even Yi-Lin thought so at first. After all, those multiple choice questions were too weird. But now I think about it. Those multiple choice questions, no matter whether you choose them or not, they can't really make critical changes to the plot. Everything was caused by the actions of the apostles. Even if it was a multiple choice question about forced action, Yi-Lin estimated that it was the sarcoma that forced the body to take various actions by connecting to the nerves. The process of choosing options is actually equivalent to handing over the control of the body to the sarcoma, or to the black hand behind the sarcoma. Just like a hypnosis master, when hypnotizing a target, he will try his best to make the target relax his vigilance and put down all mental defenses as much as possible. Otherwise, the hypnotized subject will close his eyes and cover his ears, saying I won't listen, I won't listen, I won't listen. Unless the hypnotist has extraordinary power, he will not be able to do it. Option allowed the apostle to relax his vigilance and surrender control of his body, so his actions were controlled by the sarcoma. This is why, in a certain multiple choice question of forced action, Yi-Lin desperately thought about DDDD and quickly got rid of the secret control of sarcoma. And in the end, Cao Tian Tian and Lu Ruyan seemed to believe too much in the tips given by the narrator, and ended up in boxes, which is regrettable. That black hand, haha. Yi-Lin was still a little angry when she thought about it. When Lu Ruyan finally chanted the spell in the teleportation array, Yi-Lin's disaster-ridden clearly confused Lu Ruyan's face, and Lu Ruyan's ruined expression could also prove this. But Lu Ruyan finished chanting the spell even when it was broken. Obviously, the mastermind behind the scenes controlled Lu Ruyan's body through the sarcoma, forcing Lu Ruyan to finish the spell and then activated the teleportation array. But all this, why? What Yi-Lin still can't figure out is the true purpose of the mastermind. Ever since they arrived at Styx Junior High School, the multiple choice question has been leading the five of them to a certain ending through various options, seemingly intentionally or unintentionally. Everything is under the control of the mastermind. Except, Yilin and Oda Mai pulled out the sarcoma. After the sarcoma was extracted, narration and multiple choice questions would no longer appear before their eyes. So next, what will the mastermind do? Will it bubble? Will it be online? Will there be a showdown? While Yilin was angry, she was also looking forward to it. This trial was more dangerous than imagined, but all this made Yilin curious about what the truth behind it was. At the beginning, Yilin did not want to dig too much into the plot, but this trial was still driven by a certain black hand and evolved into what it is today. There are still some things I haven't figured out, but it should be almost done. If this is a ridiculous layout, then after Yilin overturns the chessboard, the black hand who worked hard to play chess will definitely make the next move. It was like, Yilin flipped over the chessboard with a snap. Then he smiled at a certain chess player hiding in the dark and said, "It's your turn." Oda Mai seemed to understand Yilin's words. "But that's okay. So, who to kill?" Mai Oda asked. After all kinds of twists and turns, Yilin did not explain it to Oda Mai in too much detail. Moreover, explaining it is of no use. Yilin originally wanted to touch his nose or chin in a pretentious manner, but he suddenly remembered that this action seemed to be very disgusting, so he moved his fingers slightly and gave up the plan. He didn't answer, but asked, "I think you have an idea." Oda Mai looked calm and held the knife. "Well, I think it would be good to kill all the monsters." Yilin nodded and said with a smile, "Yes, at this time, your simple and crude method is the only way." Oda Mai. "Because I don't know where the other way out is." "But actually, as I said just now, I was reminded of something." Yilin smiled slightly. "This teleportation array is one-time use, and in order to prevent reverse tracking, the vice principal has a very short duration of the teleportation array. It's gone. Let's not mention this for now. If this road is the only way to survive, then it stands to reason that at the moment when this teleportation array fails, our main mission should be judged to have failed. And the mission time limit is until death. In other words, there is no time limit at all. Since the mission has not failed and there is no time limit, what are we anxious about? Maybe after a while, another way out will come up. Or, Yilin's smile grew wider, kill all the demons, or completely blow up the Styx Junior High School. If this demon factory no longer exists, does it mean we have successfully escaped? When Oda Mai heard this, her eyes lit up. That makes sense. This sincere statement instantly made Oda Mai feel that Yiren was many times more pleasing to the eye. Then, the happy moment of spawning monsters has arrived. After the two got dressed, the demons were about to swarm forward. Oda Wu raised his sword and killed him. Although it seemed that Mai Oda was chopping monsters like vegetables, Yilin noticed that Mai Oda's action of drawing the sword was a little stiffer. The band-aid can only stop the bleeding, but cannot completely cure Oda Mai's injury. In comparison, the strengthening of the Dionysus factor that Yilin obtained in Gotham City can be called a blessing, and it is wonderful. But at this moment, Yilin was equally tired. He is not a robot and cannot continue to fight endlessly. This maze can last for a long time. I remember most of the roads in it. Now this is our home court. Yilin said quickly, as long as we don't run into those little bosses, everything will be easy. Let's find a place to sleep first. Oda Mai cut off a demon with a click and looked back. I mean, take a break. Oda Mai fought out again. Neither of them were in the best condition at this moment. Yilin's spiritual energy was about to be exhausted, and Oda Mai was seriously injured. The first priority is to find a safe room and repair it. Fortunately, Yilin's memory is now extraordinary. Even if he does not rely on Blood Jasmine's attribute bonus, his initial mental attributes are about to break through the first layer of lock, and his head is spinning. Following the map navigation in their minds, Yilin and Oda Mai chose a remote cabin and got in. Nowadays, in the entire maze, there are a lot of corpses and blood stains in almost every corridor, most of which are very fresh. The demons have no way to find the two of them by following the smell of blood. Finally, close the door. After Yilin confirmed that there was no danger, she leaned against the wall and sat down. Oda Mai didn't talk nonsense and sat opposite Yilin, panting slightly, but holding the knife in her hand and never leaving. In the darkness, the two of them rested separately, falling into an awkward silence. "When did you learn my moves?" There was silence for nearly 10 minutes. Oda Mai suddenly raised her head, and two sharp eyes fell on Yilin, hissing as if they had turned into actual sharp blades. "Well." Yilin was stunned when he heard this. "I didn't expect that she would see it. Looking at it, I accidentally learned a little bit about your force-generating skills." Yilin felt guilty and made a little bit gesture with her index finger and thumb. After a while, Yilin hurriedly asked, "Wait a minute, your family, doesn't there be any broken rules such as passing down family moves to girls but not boys, or hunting down people to the ends of the earth if they find someone stealing the skills?" Oda Mai, "No. That's good." Yilin felt relieved. "You can feel free to continue learning secretly." Although Yilin is not a pure ancient warrior, after so many years of radio gymnastics style physical strengthening techniques and the influence of Lan Zhubu, he is more or less a bit showy. In addition, Yilin's memory and analysis abilities have been strengthened in the partial activation super memory state. Under the shroud of telekinetic perception, he has almost surpassed my Oda's skill in drawing and swinging the sword. The breathing rhythm, even the contraction frequency of the muscles and the angle of the knife are all memorized. Although it is difficult for Yilin to completely copy Oda Mai's sword skills, after learning a little bit about it and killing monsters, his efficiency has been significantly improved. Everyone's path is different. Yilin is not a melee evolution path. She can learn superficial skills just to save spiritual energy points. When facing a really tough enemy, Yilin had no intention of relying on this superficial knowledge to show off her presence in front of the boss. "That's courting death," Oda Mai replied. Then fell silent. No more talking. It seems like she doesn't mind Yilin secretly learning some of her moves. She could indeed tell that there was a bit of her in Yilin's movements. After breaking the silence. Anyway, with nothing to do, Yilin also started chatting with Oda Mai in a low voice. "By the way, who taught you how to handle trials like this? The fact that you have survived until now is simply awesome." "My teacher. Apostle." No. Oda Mai was silent for a moment, shook her head slightly in the darkness, and denied this possibility. "Probably not." "Pity." The two were silent for another moment. Yilin thought the conversation ended in such a weird way. Oda Mai suddenly said something again. "The teacher told me that if you hesitate, you will lose. He also said that the sword that does not hesitate can cut everything." Although this seems a bit fantasy, but the superficial meaning is still very clear. To sum it up, it's probably hesitation will lead to defeat, decisiveness will be in vain. The two times she met Mai Oda during trials, she always used such a decisive attitude, cutting everything down without thinking at all. "I see. He is really a teacher with thoughtful ideas." After thinking about it, Yilin could only say this. Oda Mai nodded in agreement and said no more. In silence, Oda Mai threw something over. Yilin took it. It turned out to be his compass. Yilin smiled slightly, without saying anything. Silently counting the remaining time in the maze, Yilin seriously thought about her next plan. The exit has disappeared, but Yilin doesn't think that the two of them have their way of survival cut off here. Yilin still has a few questions about Styx Junior High School and has yet to find answers. He believed that those answers were the key to leaving here alive. Who is the mastermind behind this? Queen Yanluo? Dog. Guard. Canteen Ant. The vice principal is dead, but where there is a vice principal, there is a principal. Styx Junior High School, or the principal of this devil's factory, why hasn't he come online yet? What role does that terrifying existence behind the mirror play in this trial? Is it really just an Easter egg for group destruction? Or is it the hidden final boss? Why? Why? Countless question marks appeared in Yilin's mind. The more I think about it, the more headache I get. But no conclusion could be drawn. Yilin had no choice but to open the apostle panel. The cute rabbit icon in the upper right corner has disappeared as the sarcoma was extracted. Next, there will be no narration, with multiple choice questions serving as prompts. In fact, what Yilin didn't tell Oda Mai was that although there was no time limit for this main mission, for the two of them, in fact, there was. The time limit of the maze is their time limit. Yilin and Oda Mai can now temporarily avoid the eyes of Queen Yanluo and other elite monsters, all relying on the sunken ship in front of them, this huge maze of chaotic space randomly generated by the scene card. Once the maze disappears, they will all return to Styx Junior High School. Without any cover, Yilin can almost picture them being attacked by a group of elite bosses. Very cruel. Can you kill these bosses? In the Western restaurant, because they were busy chasing Lu Ruyan, Yilin and Oda Wu did not really fight with Queen Yanluo. Yilin wasted 3 precious opportunities to use mediocre banana peel, lost her moral integrity, and successfully blocked Queen Yanluo. Oda Mai also used the ability of spiritual weapon, but it didn't take long before she took advantage of the situation and left. Yilin kept analyzing the strengths of both sides. If he uses his last trump card Bloodthirsty Catastrophe, with the cooperation of Oda Mai, he will most likely kill Queen Yanluo. Although Queen Yanluo's fire magic seemed to have the ability to heal, Yilin didn't believe that this healing ability really had no side effects. Just like the Dionysian factor, the effect is terrible, but the physical consumption is equally astonishing. I don't know if Disaster Haunted will have any effect on Queen Yanluo. If you use it randomly, it will just be a waste of spiritual energy. It would be better than the big slap technique to be more effective. It made me anxious, hee. In order to survive, Yilin has no plans to pick up the lost moral integrity for the time being. He quickly simulated and analyzed what kind of suits he could make with the cards he had. While Yilin was thinking, Oda Mai actually fell asleep holding the knife, and there was a slight snoring. It turns out she's not made of iron either. Yilin smiled and listened carefully to the movement outside. After it seemed that nothing had changed, he lowered his consciousness and entered the module space. Along the way, Yilin reaped countless chaos points. He didn't have time to count either. Now, finally taking advantage of this little free time, Yilin entered the module space and almost couldn't hold back her laughter. Nearly 70,000 chaos points. Finally. When upgrading the Bat Bike to Summon Mount, Night Dire, Yilin consumed all the chaos points. On only her second day at Styx Junior High School, Yilin had reached a chaos level of nearly 70,000. This efficiency is so terrifying. A little conversion, based on the average value of each demon being about 250, Yilin killed nearly 300 demons along the way. In the spiritual world, Yilin steps on the void. He skillfully dragged out the only 2 ordinary skills he had at present, and turned them into light balls floating beside him. Unstable explosives. Runs fast. Unfortunately, there are too few choices. If I could have Lao Pan's lucky points and be able to draw many skills, I would have been incredible by now. Yilin sighed and expressed her real envy of Lao Pan's luck. After hesitating for a few seconds, she reached out to grab one of the skill light balls. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 268. Unstable Explosives. This output skill is very unstable and complicated to use, but it cannot conceal its essence as an excellent output skill. Yulin reviewed his current abilities and found that he indeed lacked a conventional output skill. Before breaking through the first level of spiritual lock, telekinesis cannot exert its due power. Besides, who would think that he has too many output skills? Yulin didn't hesitate. The skill light ball was held in Yulin's hand. At the same time, the shattering skill slot matching unstable explosive lit up slightly, flickering on and off like a breathing lamp. After the bloodthirsty catastrophe, on the line that spread infinitely into the depths of darkness, a broken ball of light lit up. This operation requires 20,000 chaos points. Yes/no? Hesitate for a second. Yulin still chose yes. After selection. In an instant. The unstable explosive in Yulin's hand turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the module with a whoosh. The cracks on the corresponding shattering skill slot were quickly repaired and relit at a speed visible to the naked eye. Although Yulin's module is a damaged Apocalypse Knight module, everything is DIY based on your own ideas. But after all, the Apocalypse Knights are walking natural disasters that bring doomsday to mankind. Yulin has vaguely figured out some patterns in the direction of the evolution of ordinary skills after adding them to the module. The skills of the disaster system, whether it is calamity haunted or bloodthirsty catastrophe, are very overbearing and almost like a disaster. A strong control ability and an explosive ability. Unstable explosive. After upgrading, there is a high probability that Yulin will not be disappointed. But what Yulin is worried about is that she must not create another cheap card similar to Bloodthirsty Disaster, which is terrifyingly powerful but has side effects and skill limitations. How about a mediocre output skill? Yulin cannot fully control all of this, it is all matched by the module. It's like unboxing a game, investing a huge amount of chaos value and consuming a precious slot, but the final appearance after skill upgrades has a bit of a gamble. Consumption of chaos value 20,000. Remaining chaos value, 55,254. Unstable explosives is upgraded to Grasp of Annihilation. Grasp of Annihilation. Ouch. The name sounds good. Yulin was very calm. But I still couldn't help but have a little expectation in my heart. It seems that the time has come to replace shotguns with cannons. Grasp of Annihilation. Level 1 star. Consumption 200 spiritual energy points. Restriction: casting spells with bare hands. Effect: click to view details. Explanation: your hand is so murderous that it will not recognize its relatives. If you are not careful, you may even die in annihilation. The moment she saw the skill description, Yulin breathed a sigh of relief. Finally came a mediocre output skill. Finally, it is no longer a restricted level nirvana. Yulin silently analyzed the pros and cons of skills. The consumption of 200 points of spiritual energy is completely within Yulin's acceptance range. The upgraded Grasp of Annihilation no longer requires any physical object as a medium for explosion. It can directly lock a space with bare hands to produce an explosion effect, which is perfect. This upgrade eliminated all the shortcomings of unstable explosives that Yulin criticized, and evolved it into a perfect skill. The power of the blast is unknown. Is casting distance related to attributes? These vague descriptions were also expected by Yulin. After all, the power of a skill is largely affected by its attribute value. As for the most critical part of the new skill, the annihilation effect, what is this? Yulin saw the end. The corners of his eyes couldn't help but twitch slightly. Related to luck value. Yulin silently looked at his lucky value of 2.8, and temporarily stopped thinking about the effect of this annihilation effect. Wait until it triggers. This skill also has restrictions. But it's also a painless restriction. Just like Disaster Haunting, when releasing the skill, you must use your side to lock the opponent before you can successfully release the skill. As for Grip of Annihilation, it seems that you need to use your hand to lock the area where the skill is released. Well, I'll give it a try later when I get a chance. Before using the skill, Yilin couldn't tell what kind of state this hand lock would be like. However, Yilin thought for a moment and came up with a simple way to circumvent this restriction. Yilin can temporarily use telekinesis to suspend the sword, so that his hands are also in an empty state. Or directly enter the spirit descending posture. In the spirit descending posture, Yilin's hands can also be freed, so there is no need to worry. Yilin quickly brainstormed several new operating methods based on the new skills. Very comfortable. It's just a pity that there are a bunch of unused explosive beads in the storage space. If I return it to Meng Meng intact and write off the debt, will she be so angry that she wants to beat me to death? She shouldn't be so stingy, right? Thinking of the pile of exploding beads in the storage space, several thoughts flashed through Yilin's mind. Thinking about it more carefully, although the upgraded grasp of annihilation has eliminated many shortcomings of unstable explosives, it cannot set the timed explosion as desired like unstable explosives. This is the only thing that makes it impossible. Yilin felt that there were flaws in it. The time bomb is really comfortable to use, and you can arrange many back UPS in advance. All kinds of wonderful things, whoever uses them will know. However, there were gains and losses, and Yilin was not too entangled. All in all, the upgraded skills can be used as Yilin's current main regular output skills. This is just an ordinary blasting skill, nothing else special. Next. After upgrading a skill, Yilin did not dare to waste time. There is a lot more chaos value. This is an opportunity to improve your strength. Every moment in the module space, psychic energy is consumed. It's not very safe around Yiren these days. If it weren't for Oda Mai, if it weren't for Queen Yanluo's strength, Yilin would feel the crisis. Yilin would not choose to edit the module at this time. There is only one skill ball floating next to Yilin. Runs fast. Only children make choices. Yilin decided to upgrade both. This skill. To be honest, if you get this skill as an agility side apostle, you will definitely be happy. But unfortunately, Yilin is not. Although his agility attribute is not weak now, it will not be the case in the later stages. Yilin didn't know how to unlock the agility attribute. Even if the agility attribute accidentally rose to 10 points, it would be difficult for him to take the agility side. Yilin is very familiar with the spiritual path, and even has a rough idea of the future evolutionary direction. But Yiren is really unfamiliar with the agility side route. It is precisely because Yilin feels that this skill, which is very useful for agility side apostles, has been shelved here. I have a headache. But Yilin still had a thought and grabbed the run fast skill ball in her hand. At the same time, the corresponding groove has lit up slightly, ready to move. Huh? There. Yilin has already tried it before, and the only route that run fast can match is after like a shadow, so Yilin has roughly inferred what skills run fast can be upgraded to. At this moment, in the module that shrunk into a mini form in front of Yilin, the skill grooves that flickered in and out according to Yilin's movements. In addition to the one behind like a shadow, there was another weird groove. It lit up. The broken groove after summon mount, nightmare. Mount strengthened. Yilin was thoughtful and suddenly realized. Is this also a choice? Hee. Yilin operated quickly and skillfully. This operation requires 10,000 chaos points. Yes/no? A mere D-level skill actually costs 10,000 chaos points? Why don't you go and grab it? Yilin complained crazily. But helpless. He still chose yes. After the mount route, the corresponding broken skill slot was repaired again by some mysterious power as the chaos value flowed away. The chaos points that were finally earned were all consumed by Yilin before he could keep warm. Now, all his skills have been incorporated into the module. He no longer has any ordinary skills. Of course, Yilin didn't feel any pain at all. If money is not spent, it means nothing. The chaos points are not used to upgrade skills, they are just kept in a tuck, and there is no interest. Is there anything wrong with that? After spending 10,000 chaos points to deal with Run Fast, Yilin did not hesitate to spend 40,000 chaos points, all of them on Grip of Annihilation. This is an output skill that can be used frequently, so the higher the level, the better. Looking at the 80,000 chaos points required for the next level, Yilin was speechless and choked. Grasp of Annihilation, which was upgraded from 1 star to 2 stars, has no other changes except that the explosion range has been expanded to 2x2x2. But this upgrade is really worth the money. This blasting range is 8 times that of the 1-star level, and can be used as a small-scale AoE skill. Yilin is very satisfied with the new skills. When exiting the module space, Yilin opened her eyes and met Otamai's slightly curious gaze. "Have you rested enough?" Otamai didn't answer. She just stood up slowly. Click. The knife pops out slightly. This was her answer. The two of them didn't stay in this room for long. Yilin and Otamai reorganized their team and entered the maze. The maze was filled with a strong smell of blood. That's not human blood. In the narrow space, Yilin still used the Nai Hungziu form change. Under the surging bloodshot, no monster could stop Yilin from facing him. Considering that Otamai was seriously injured behind her back, Yilin also took the initiative to stand in the C position of the main output, and extinguished the green lights in the darkness with an expressionless face. The demons have long lost the sense they had when they were students of Styx Junior High School and have all turned into hungry tentacle monsters. Although these low-level demons were troublesome, Yilin had already gained experience in killing them and barely stopped in her footsteps, leaving a field of corpses behind them. Although most of the monsters were snatched away by Yilin, which made Otamai quite unhappy, there was nothing he could do if he couldn't snatch them away. Otamai could only follow Yilin with her head down, unsheathing and retracting her sword, retracting and unsheathing it, going back and forth without much blood on it. Certainly. Yilin is not an ironclad machine. Fighting like this not only consumes spiritual energy, but also energy and physical energy. In order to be able to cope with any emergencies, Yilin alternately uses two methods of killing monsters, assassination and frontal hard anal. In order to try to maintain the spiritual energy value above 50%. Otherwise, if they accidentally encounter Queen Yanluo in the maze and their spiritual energy is exhausted, Yilin and Otamai may really have no choice but to lie down and let the queen train them. Moreover, Yilin is not alone. When she is tired, Yilin lurks in the darkness, letting Otamai stand in front and take over the main force, so that Yilin can get a chance to breathe. As time goes by, Yilin clearly felt that the density of monsters in the maze was getting thinner and thinner. Several times, for nearly 5 minutes, the two passed through several intersections, but no demon emerged, only corpses in various forms of death. They have walked this road before. 10 hours later. Etc. Both of them were covered in demon blood. This time it was Otamai's turn. She was used to the pain in her back. In addition, since the wound was covered with a towel, there was no need to worry about leak detection. Otamai was in a happy mood and her expression was distorted. Yilin's sudden call to stop made Otamai a little unhappy. After brutally dismembering the demon in front of her with a few knives, she put the long knife into its sheath and turned to look at Yilin, wanting to reject him in return. Yilin looked at Otamai's expression and roughly guessed what she was thinking. I can't laugh or cry. Haven't you killed enough yet? Yilin felt like she was almost exhausted. Although this maze has become a barrier for the two of them, as long as they are careful and don't run into those elite monsters, there is not much danger. But after 10 hours of this high-intensity fighting, let alone the demons and monsters, he felt like he was about to vomit just by seeing the green light. This maze, time is running out. Otamai was slightly startled. She also knew very well that the reason why they had been able to deal with the demons and monsters for so long was largely due to this huge maze. Yulin has clearly memorized more than 70% of the map of this maze, which is equivalent to a humanoid navigation. No matter how complicated the maze is, as long as the scene does not change, it will be of no benefit to Yulin and Oda Mai. Harmful. Not long ago, they encountered an old dog in the maze. At that time, Yulin's spiritual power was not in the best condition, so after weighing the pros and cons, the two of them only had a little deal with the old dog, and did not forcefully fight with the old dog. In the end, I took advantage of the maze and easily got rid of the old dog. However, the old dog didn't seem to pay attention to the two of them at all. When it saw the warm corpse next to it, it happily gnawed on it without any restraint. Dog, isn't this normal? It's a real dog. After finding a relatively safe cabin, the two of them rested in silence and restored their spiritual energy. There's still about an hour left. Yulin closed her eyes and silently counted the little time left in the maze of scenes. Taking advantage of her free time and safety, Yulin entered the module space again and directly upgraded Disaster Ridden to the full level. Disaster Ridden. Grade 5 stars, max. Consumption 120 spiritual energy points. Restrictions: you must say "let the world feel pain" from now on loudly before you can activate the skill. Effect: it can cause a single target within sight to fall into a random negative state, confusion, slowness, dizziness, imprisonment, charm, blinding, etc. There is a 60% chance of causing the target to fall into more than one random negative state. The skill effect is affected by the spirit. Attributes and the target's will attributes are affected. Explanation: if you love, say it out loud. Among the many module skills, only Disaster Haunting consumes the least amount of chaos points, while the others are all expensive. For Disaster Haunted that has been upgraded to 5 stars, the spiritual energy consumption has been reduced to 120 per shot. Currently, with the bonus of Blood Jasmine, Yulin's spiritual energy value has exceeded the 800-point mark. Under the premise that her spiritual power is at full value, Yulin can even unleash 6 consecutive rounds of disaster, and the effect is very brutal. If you hit this button 6 times in a row, if you encounter a timid person, you might be able to urinate on the spot. Of course, generally Yulin wouldn't use it like this, just saying. Another change is that the probability of disaster triggering various negative states has increased from 50% to 60%. Although all probabilities are in vain, they are still higher, which gives Yulin hope. After all, he has triggered this effect before. This probability does exist and cannot be faked. Disaster Ridden after reaching the full level. Yulin was a little more casual. Another prompt popped up in front of me. Insufficient permissions. It is exactly the same as the prompt after Like a Shadow was upgraded to the max level. That is to say, max level is not the highest skill level. Can it be improved further? But what does permission mean? Is it because the module is incomplete? After flipping over and over for a while, Yulin couldn't come to a conclusion and had no choice but to exit from the module space. The remaining skills probably wouldn't improve in this trial, so Yulin was too lazy to look at them. After a simple meal, Yulin and Oda Mai silently regained their strength. In the darkness, Yulin gently rubbed the compass. In this trial, there is still one chance to use the compass. But the exit has been destroyed. Even if Yulin silently counts the exits in her heart, she will not gain anything. Without clear desire, compass cannot give an answer. You need to find the answer yourself. There is only one chance left: how to use it. A corner of the room. Oda Mai seemed a little impatient. The unsheathed long knife was moved from the left hand to the right hand, and then from the right hand to the left hand. The two of them were silent. Yulin closed her eyes, thinking about what to do after the maze disappears. Once the scene card expires, the two of them will be exposed to the sight of all monsters, with nowhere to hide. Faced with so many elite monsters at the same time, Yulin, even after switching from shotgun to cannon, would never be able to escape unscathed. Yulin now even had the confidence to circle twice in front of Queen Yanluo without dying, but she didn't have the confidence to face that group of elite monsters at the same time. His spiritual energy value is his limit. He cannot use skills infinitely. After a while, Yulin opened her eyes in the darkness. Made up my mind. The subtle change in the atmosphere made Oda Mai stop being impatient and look towards Yulin. Their eyes met. Yulin didn't see even a trace of hesitation in Oda Mai's eyes. He suddenly remembered Oda Mai, what her teacher said. Hesitating will lead to defeat, but being decisive will lead to failure. Sometimes you might think too much and take too many detours, so why not just hit us head on? Yulin suddenly smiled. The compass needle suddenly froze. The two set out again. Follow the directions of the compass. There are fewer and fewer monsters in the maze corridors. The passage of the sunken ship was covered with corpses. There were even many corpses that had been chewed up until only their bones remained. Yulin felt that this factory might also learn from the principle of cultivating goo. Once something unexpected happens and the monsters eat each other, they might be able to raise a giant insect. While walking, looking at the corpses around him, Yulin paused for a moment and murmured to himself. By the way, I seem to have overlooked something. Since this factory operates in such a weird way, didn't the principal who never appeared before expect that the factory would go out of control? These demons will become perverted once their stomachs are full, and they can evolve into this situation so easily. Could it be that from the beginning, this factory had a plan to prevent this situation from happening? Or is it a backup plan that can completely clean up this situation? Like spring cleaning. Following the guidance of the compass, Yulin came to the outside of the map. According to the maze map Yulin remembered, this place is at the bottom of the sunken ship. Normally, it should be the location of the power furnace. However, under the random effects of scene cards, all the rooms and spaces in the entire maze were completely confused. Even if a row of women's toilets appeared behind the door in front of her, Yulin wouldn't be surprised at all. The compass needle pointed right in front of me. The maze was too big, with crisscrossing roads, and Yulin had to avoid elite monsters, so she didn't explore all of it. There were several rooms at the bottom of the sunken ship, which the two of them had never been to. There are still many places that have not yet been filled in Yulin's memory. Without saying a word, Oda Mai picked up the knife and prepared to fight in. Yulin quickly held down Oda Mai. She didn't know where Yulin used the compass for the last time. What Yulin guided was, the murderer of Saya. The concept of the mastermind behind the scenes is also too vast. Compass has no answer. But the murderer of Saya was different. Yulin brewed her emotions for a while, thinking about Saya's kindness, her cleverness, and her beauty. As soon as the sense of substitution came, Yulin's heart welled up with sadness. The compass could naturally sense his desire for the murderer and instantly gave him the direction. Oda Mai raised her head, her face expressionless, and she almost pulled out the knife, but Yulin pushed her back again. Yulin was about to use her senses to see who was behind the lower door. And right now. Please come in. Behind the door. An elegant and lazy voice came. Yulin and Oda Mai looked at each other in shock when they heard this. Oda Mai even hung both knives on her waist and instantly entered a state of preparation for battle, her muscles tense. Is this, welcome? Yulin pondered for a moment, then smiled and said, then I'm welcome. Say it. Yulin asked Oda Mai to follow her and pushed the door open. The scene behind the door actually seemed familiar to Yulin. He is obviously from Styx Junior High School. Infirmary. A woman wearing a white coat with hot clothes was sitting on the table leisurely. Her fair and slender legs were crossed in front of her, swaying slightly, and her 5 toes were painted with strange black nail polish. Of course, legs are not the point. The clothes are quite big. The white coat is very white. Yilin looked up. The woman's face is wearing a mask. A pink bunny mask. Yilin. Oda Mai. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 269. Christine stood up gracefully. Welcome, cuties. Lazy laughter came from behind the cute rabbit mask. Oda Mai feels like facing a powerful enemy. This room was once the infirmary of Styx Junior High School. Yilin and Oda Mai have been there once. In the infirmary, the cold instruments and the empty operating bed were scattered everywhere, as if the structure had been disrupted in a randomly reorganized scene. But the general atmosphere of the room was roughly the same as that day. But inside the room, it blends in with the style of a cruise ship. It is surrounded by cold and rusty iron plates. It is pitch black outside the window. From time to time, dark red rust water drips above the head and drips on the ground. Ahem. The woman coughed twice, and then said, "The damn transfer student ruined this school. I, Christine, am very angry." But there was no hint of anger in his words. School nurse, Christine. Yilin remained silent. Christine has very long legs. This is not the point. The key point is that she stretched her legs slightly and stepped off the table. High heels. Yo. She seems to be wearing the same style as Queen Yanluo. When she walked out, the space around her seemed to be weirdly distorted. But upon closer inspection, there was none. In front of the two of them, there seemed to be an unspeakable depression brewing quietly. Kristen put her hands in the pockets of her lab coat. When she saw the two of them staying in place without moving, she chuckled and slowly took her hands out of her white coat. Her fair hands were also painted with pitch black nail polish. The color of the nail polish made Christine's skin look even more pale and delicate. After Christine appears, only 2 sentences were said. Time seemed to freeze. After a few seconds, Oda Mai and Yilin moved at the same time. Before Christine could take action, Oda Mai had already strode forward, her body lying low, like a fully drawn bow. Draw your sword and chop. A face-to-face, no nonsense, Oda Mai instantly used the most familiar and commonly used moves. Between her and Christine, a thin, almost imperceptible blade started from Oda Mai's waist and passed through Christine's neck in the blink of an eye. At the moment when Oda Mai made a bold move, Yilin took advantage of the situation and activated like a shadow to lurk in the darkness and quickly circled behind Christine. The two have a tacit understanding, and this set of coordination can be described as very skillful. The school nurse Christine's laughter was still echoing in the room, and the masked head had already fallen off, but not a drop of blood flowed out from the broken end of the neck. In the darkness, Blood Jasmine passed behind Christine silently, revealing herself at the heart position. It feels so soft. The moment she stabbed Christine, Yilin couldn't help but have such a weird idea in her mind. Do not misunderstand. This soft feel does not refer to the softness of a specific part of Christine. It was the feedback from the tip of the knife at this moment that made Yilin completely unable to feel the refreshing feeling of hitting the monster, swish, swish, swish. On the contrary, his knife seemed to be soaked in a slippery liquid. With a slight movement, the moisture inside his body was rolling. It gave Yilin the illusion that it could stir freely inside her body. No confusion value. In an instant, Yilin's eyes narrowed slightly, and with a pop, he decisively pulled out Blood Jasmine from Christine's body. Blood Jasmine's blade was as smooth as new. After Mai Oda cut off Christine's head with a knife, she also showed a strange expression. It seems that the experienced Oda Mai also noticed something was wrong with the feel. No matter how weird other demons are, most of their body structures are partially similar to humans. It's nothing more than flesh, bones, blood vessels, and various tentacles and other organs, forming the devil's wonderful body. Some are hard, some are soft, but not that outrageous. Back off. Yulin and Otamai fought all the way. Although they were not in tune with each other, they had a considerable understanding of each other. With Yuren's look and a brief word, Otamai understood Yuren's meaning. She put away the next knife she was about to make and smoothly retreating from the situation. Yulin casually threw the blood jasmine away, spinning it around her. Empty-handed state. He quickly retreated, and after his hands were empty, he suddenly raised his right hand, his fingers slightly bent, as if he was holding the space in front of him. The feeling given to Yulin when Grasp of Annihilation is activated is indeed very strange. At this moment, there seems to be a tangible feeling in the palm of the hand, like holding a ball, which can be rounded, squeezed, or even crushed according to Yulin's heart. As Yulin locked on, in the 2x2x2 range in front of her, imaginary light rays were quickly outlined, enclosing a square space. It's too late, but it's soon. It didn't even take a second from Yulin's activation of the skill to the moment the grip of annihilation was locked. The area locked by Grasp of Annihilation can only be seen by Yulin. In Otamai's eyes, Yulin just lightly kneaded forward a few times. Burst. The space locked by the skill was outlined with light. Yulin's slightly curved fingers clenched tightly, suddenly exerted force, and clenched the 5 fingers into a fist. And in Yulin's palm, the non-existent ball, shattered. Grip of Annihilation. The center of the 2x2x2 square area lit up without warning. In the blink of an eye, the explosion of fire completely filled the square space and lit up the darkness. The strange thing is that the power of the explosion did not pour out at all, and was completely confined to that square area. Yulin and Ota stood on the edge of the explosion, not even feeling a breath of wind. The terrifying explosion heat wave happened out of thin air without any warning. During those 10 hours, Yulin also released Grasp of Annihilation and gradually mastered its operation. The power of the explosion is not exaggerated to the point where it can kill gods if gods block it, and kill Buddha if Buddha blocks it. There are even some rough-skinned demons who, after taking one shot of Grasp of Annihilation, can still emit black smoke from their mouths, lie on the ground with limbs twitching, and are close to death. Mainly the way of exerting force. It is a new experience for Yulin. Give him the illusion of being in control of everything. Of course it's just an illusion. An output skill only gives Yulin a simple and mindless output method, but it does not allow Yulin to instantly rise to several levels. Let's talk about the shortcomings of Grasp of Annihilation in actual combat. The first thing is, you have to be empty-handed. No need to say more about this. Yulin found that there was a delay of about 0.8 seconds in the process of locking the explosion area with his hand. Although generally speaking, this delay of less than 1 second in skill release is nothing, but Yulin has played high-end games in her previous life. In front of some apostles who specialize in agility, a delay of 0.8 seconds is enough to change the situation. But in general, the skill Grasp of Annihilation has flaws that outweigh its flaws. Simple and crude, deep-fried. Really? Explosion is a man's romance. After the light of the explosion dissipated, Yulin grasped the void again and locked onto the area filled with thick smoke. The difference from Calamity Haunting is that when releasing Catastrophe Haunting, what needs to be locked is the target, while Annihilation Grip locks on a location. Even if there is nothing in the location, Yulin can easily release an air explosion. Come again. Christine's calmness and the feeling of feedback when stabbing the knife made Yulin feel that something was wrong. He focused his gaze, consumed 200 points of spiritual energy again, and released Grasp of Annihilation again at the same place. Unfortunately, the annihilation effect was not triggered. Giggle. After the explosion. The smoke has not cleared. A lazy and charming laugh sounded from behind Yulin. Yulin's pupils shrank slightly. This type of laughter could not possibly come from Oda Mai, so it was self-evident who it was. A rabbit, no, I should say, a head wearing a cute rabbit mask, resting quietly on the table, motionless, and the laughter came from behind the mask, which was very strange. This end, since when did you climb on the table? Yilin shook her hand, and her telekinesis swept through her. Blood jasmine flew into the air and was held in Yilin's hand again. Oda Mai and Yilin worked together to output a wave, although Christine only had one head left on the table. But that leisurely laughter made it difficult for Yilin to have the idea of "I'll take off his clothes if the enemy is ashamed." 2 shots of Grasp of Annihilation caused Yilin's spiritual energy value to drop instantly. The two of them made no move. Yilin winked at Oda Mai and retreated to the door. That head made no sound after it let out a weird laugh. "It looks like it's down." But Yilin knew very well that Christine was definitely not dead. Because Yilin did not gain chaos points. Chaos value is Yilin's criterion for judging whether a monster is dead or not. None of them. Because for now, as long as life is killed, Yilin will definitely get the prompt, without exception. Yilin was already 100% certain that the head wearing a cute rabbit mask on the table was the mastermind behind all this. With the sarcoma inserted behind their backs, they secretly manipulated everything, hid behind the scenes, and directed everything. But why? Yilin still doesn't understand. Who is she? In this trial, what identity does it exist? Swish swish. In the darkness, there were faint and strange sounds coming from all directions. Because the sound came from every corner of the room, Yilin couldn't tell what the rustling sound meant. Under the gaze of the two people, the head finally made a move, floating silently from the table. Wrong. Instead of floating up, there were shadows crawling like reptiles from behind the head, converging under the head from all sides of the room and regrouping. In the blink of an eye, all the squirming worms twisted, and soon reorganized into a naked body under the head. The snow-white plump body was dazzlingly white in the darkness, ridiculously large, and some parts even glowed slightly. This scene should have been very charming, but Yilin was completely unmoved. After all, he had seen with his own eyes what this almost perfect body was made of. Christine reunites. She sat on the table, not shy, with her legs crossed, blocking her key parts, allowing Oda Mai and Yilin to look past her unscrupulously. "Haha, you surprised me." Kristen swayed her fair and long legs, and she still had the same lazy tone when she spoke. "Witnessed it all." Yilin suddenly understood what the tumor that lay behind him and Oda Mai not long ago was. If I guessed correctly, it should be part of Christine's body. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 270. Oda Mai said nothing. He stepped forward and slashed again. The light of the knife passed by, and Christine was cut in half horizontally. But the next second, the cross-cut wound kept squirming and healed in the blink of an eye. Yilin frowned. No action. The reason why he didn't take action was not because he felt that the other party's car lights were too dazzling and he was embarrassed. Rather, Yilin felt that this was just a useless effort. Oda Mai also realized that her knife could not hurt Christine. He was hesitating whether to use the power of the possessed weapon, and used the blood evil energy to see if he could chop the pile of white flesh in front of him into pieces and never put them back together again. He. Christine lowered her head, looked at the rapidly healing wound on her abdomen, and chuckled, but made no other movements. Who are you? Yilin asked. Cuties, what do you think? Yilin shook his head. There's nothing to guess, I'm just curious about your purpose. You may know, but you don't need to know. Christine suddenly looked up, wearing a cute bunny mask. Yilin couldn't see the other person's expression, nor could she tell the true meaning of the words. Kristen's movement of raising her head had no meaning. She quickly looked away from somewhere in the room and said, "Soon." She stared deeply at my Oda for a few more seconds. From behind the mask, two faint green lights came out, as if trying to penetrate Oda Mai. This strange look made Oda Mai subconsciously hold the knife tightly, but she couldn't do it. She had tried it, and it didn't work even if the opponent was cut in half. Oda Mai didn't know where to cut to make Christine's death smoother. After a while, Christine's white body suddenly split open and turned into countless white ugly pieces of flesh, scattering in all directions. Yilin and Oda Mai looked at what happened in front of them in shock. The shape of those bugs was clearly the same as the sarcoma that lay on their backs not long ago. Yilin looked at the insects that filled the room warily. Swish swish. Countless bugs stretched out pseudopods from their twisted bodies and crawled quickly along the table and floor. Oda Mai and Yilin were in their own rooms, avoiding the invasion of the insect army. Unexpectedly, Christine split into adults, not because she wanted to do some inhumane act to Yilin and Oda Mai, but to merge into a stream and leave from the hatch. In the blink of an eye, Christine disappeared from the infirmary without a trace in this strange way. Not even a hair was left. Click. Oda Mai put away the knife. Poker face. But she held the scabbard tightly with one hand, her knuckles trembling slightly. After Yilin was silent for a moment, he smiled and said, "Don't blame yourself. It's not your fault that you can't be killed. Oda Mai. Judging from the weird splitting method of Christine, it shouldn't be the original body. It's very likely that she doesn't have any abilities at all when she exists in that way, so she has to be laid out in this way." Layout, Oda Mai didn't understand. Yilin shook his head and did not explain. In fact, he couldn't explain it for a while. What makes Yilin feel uncomfortable is that in this trial, although Christine secretly manipulated everything, Yilin has to admit that in a sense, they and this mastermind Christine are, maybe they belong to the same camp. But why didn't she tell me? Does it have to be this way of playing riddles? Yilin murmured. He suddenly remembered that when the half finger extended out of the mirror, the world was desolate and all the demons were kneeling. Yilin related this incident to the way Christine raised her head at the end, as if looking at someone from a distance. Is it possible that everyone here, including Christine, is under surveillance by a certain entity, so what she wants to do cannot be too direct and can only be done secretly in circles? After thinking about it, Yilin didn't stay there for long. He believes that soon, there will be an answer. In the infirmary, after the immortal Christine left, Yilin searched carefully. But due to the random scene maze, the spiral staircase that was originally located in the corner of the infirmary and led to the underground was randomly transported to an unknown place and disappeared. This is also normal. Originally, the spawn room and the infirmary belonged to different rooms. After the scene card took effect, it was not surprising that the space was divided. What's next? Oda Mai asked a little impatiently. Yilin sat down directly and closed her eyes. Wait. When Oda Mai heard this, her expression was slightly startled. Yilin did not open her eyes, breathing slowly and recharging her energy. He said softly, "Wait for recovery." Oda Mai was thoughtful, seemingly understanding, but a little unclear. But she was also very tired after all, and the wound on her back, which was covered with a scarf, was causing bursts of pain. Oda Mai simply sat not far from Yilin, leaning her shoulders against the wall and hugging her. Knife closed his eyes and took a rest. In the final time of the maze's limited time, it no longer makes much sense to fight aimlessly in the maze. Yilin knew that there were not many monsters trapped in the maze. And demons with astonishing intelligence, such as Queen Yanluo and Laogo, might be crouching in some rooms with a sneer at the moment, acting as guardian boss-like existences. Wandering around in a maze without mobs will only increase the chance of encountering them. And although Christine didn't mention it before leaving, Yulin noticed that when Christine stopped talking, it seemed like she was saying, "Wait." During the waiting time, Yulin went through everything that had happened since the beginning of the game in his mind to see if there was anything he had missed. Time passes quickly. Oda Mai stroked her knife. In the dark, Yulin suddenly opened her eyes, and her spiritual power had been fully restored. Then he stood up and reminded in a low voice, "Get ready, the scene is about to disappear." As long as 12 hours, Yulin couldn't calculate it accurately based on his feeling, but it was not far off. Oda Mai nodded and took a few steps closer to Yulin. Suddenly, Yulin's heart moved and she activated her skill. Behind Yulin, a brilliant curtain of light appeared out of thin air. Squares with flowing light were piled up in the shape of a motorcycle in front of Yulin. Night Dire comes from across the border. 20 minutes later, the rusty cabin finally emitted a faint light and turned into mysterious data streams, completely decomposing and dissipating in front of it. Yulin and Oda Mai's eyes flashed at the same time. After a brief dazzling light, they both felt that their feet were stuck in the air, and a sense of weightlessness suddenly came over them. But this feeling of weightlessness did not last long. After a few breaths, the two of them felt that they were on the ground again. The maze disappeared. At the moment when the scene maze disappears. In the scene of death on a cruise ship, countless corpses were randomly transported back to the ground and piled up into horrific mountains of corpses. A gurgling stream of blood gathered into a stream at the foot of the mountain of corpses, exuding a strong smell of blood. After Yulin and Mai Oda landed on the ground, they were surprised to find that even their feet were buried among the corpses. After finally pulling out the legs from the corpse, Yulin quickly looked at the surrounding environment. He. Far away. A laugh arose along with boundless anger. Yanluo. The ant in the cafeteria was still alive. She saw the flames of Queen Yanluo from a distance. She suddenly transformed and her body swelled several times. The hard meat looked very scary. She knocked with a butcher's knife in one hand and a chopping board in the other. The fishy wind blew up and moved towards Yan. Queen Luo kills. The other side. In the mountain of corpses, two huge dog heads opened their mouths and swept away a pile of corpses. A two-headed strange dog with a ferocious face and glowing green eyes showed a terrifying posture in the dark night. I saw the two-headed dog with 4 rows of sharp teeth, like a shovel. He lowered his head and shoveled into the mountain of corpses. Countless corpses fell into the two dog heads, clicking, and in the blink of an eye, not even the bones or dregs were left. A clean one. After finishing the devouring, the two-headed dog was still a little unsatisfied, its two heads and nose twitching, as if it was chasing something. Damn it! You stupid dog, how many times have I told you not to eat randomly? The bald guard came from nowhere, across the darkness, step by step, walking on the mountain of corpses. I saw that with every step the bald guard took, his body grew 1 meter taller, and with every step he took, he grew another meter taller. His skin became redder and redder, as if he was about to bleed. As the bald guard's figure grew, 2 sharp horns and fangs pierced out from his bare forehead and mouth respectively. The corners of his mouth tilted, creating a ferocious smile like a domineering president. The mountain of corpses appeared on the playground, and the smell wafted far away. All the demons were completely crazy about it and transformed on the spot. Queen Yanluo also had a crazy look on her face, took a step forward, and with a bang, the mountain of corpses collapsed. Under the terrible high temperature, the flesh and blood melted into blood in the blink of an eye. After another second, the blood around her first bubbled, then boiled, and then steamed out, lingering around Queen Yanluo. Except for a few particularly dazzling whips, bald heads, old dogs, and Obazan, green lights lit up one after another in the darkness. It was a series of twisted figures and tentacles. Looking at this scene, Yilin was not surprised. He had already expected that the moment the maze disappeared, he and Mai Ota would face the most difficult situation in this trial. Random scene cards, especially large random scenes, are not generated in a subspace similar to dual space. But in this world, there really is a forbidden entry sunken ship, which was resimulated after disrupting the space division within the range. If someone is outside the maze, they can clearly see this shipwrecked cruise ship with chaotic space appearing inexplicably on the playground. The death points Yilin consumed at that time did not cover the entire Styx Junior High School. After all, when the scene card is used, the scope covered is based on Yilin's memory at the time. He cannot be randomly selected as one of the random rooms in locations he has not visited before. The other demons who had slipped through the net were already outside the sunken ship, watching and waiting for the moment the sunken ship disappeared. Simply put. Now, it's the final act. When the demons are dancing wildly. Styx Junior High School was suddenly shaken. The ground was shaking, and various buildings in the distance collapsed one after another. Bright red flesh was exposed behind the collapsed walls. All buildings, including teaching buildings, office buildings, canteens, all buildings that were higher than the ground had their wall paint cracked by the sudden vibration, revealing the true appearance inside. The monsters, who were focusing on fighting, mating, eating, and killing, stopped their key actions one after another. After a moment of surprise, Queen Yanluo suddenly gritted her teeth and squeezed out a low growl from between her teeth. Damn! It's awake. Happy Double 11 everyone. The author can't afford to clear the shopping cart, so he can only come back and update. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 271. In front of Yilin and Ota Mai, the entire Styx Junior High School turned into squirming flesh and blood, constantly twisting, as if it was being reconstructed into a terrifying monster. Boarding. Yiren rode the nightmare, speaking concisely, and asked Ota Mai to get on the mount. Before the maze disappeared, Yilin had already summoned Night Dire in advance just for this moment. After all, summoning a Night Dire requires a full 400 points of spiritual energy. If summoned during a fierce battle, it would undoubtedly be a great weakening for Yilin. For spiritual apostles, most abilities are based on skills, and the importance of spiritual energy is comparable to health. When Yilin summoned a domineering-looking motorcycle out of thin air, Ota Mai had been surprised for a while. Now at the last moment, she moved without any hesitation, spread her legs and stepped onto the Night Dire. The ground beneath his feet twisted crazily, forming vortexes of flesh and blood, as if they were going to swallow everything. The mountain of corpses and minced meat on the ground sank rapidly in the twisted whirlpool of flesh and blood accompanied by the violent vibrations. Click click click. The teeth-searing sound of eating came from all directions, as if there were countless mouths, opening wide and biting the food in their mouths with sharp teeth. This strange sound made both Yilin and Ota Mai change their expressions. Yilin turned the accelerator in an instant, and Nightmare and the two of them shot out in a certain direction like a dark arrow. As soon as Night Dire left, the ground where they had just been cracked, and a terrifying crack nearly 10 meters long opened without warning. In the cracks, there are countless tentacles with big bloody mouths at the ends. They seem to be extremely hungry, and they move crazily towards the air. If they had been even half a step later, they might have been entangled in the countless tentacles and drawn into the cracks. The entire Styx Junior High School is actually a sleeping monster. All students can be said to be its descendants. After all, these tentacles still seem to have some genetic characteristics. I don't know if Kristen did some tricks in secret, or the smell of a large amount of demon corpses awakened this monster. Yilin drove the Night Dire and moved quickly through the cracked earth flexibly. In addition to countless weird tentacles pouring out of those cracks, there are also rows of long crooked sharp teeth, like saws, breaking out of the flesh walls of the two rows of cracks. When the flesh and blood squirms, the rows of twisted sharp teeth are like human chewing movements, grinding each other, quickly grinding various pieces of meat that fall into the cracks into meat residue, and then being swallowed into the monster's body, return to the mother body in the form of nutrients. It's Styx Junior High School. This is the true attitude of Styx Junior High School. Maybe this is the real devil. In front of this huge body, neither Yilin nor Otamai could have thoughts that could compete with it. After all, the difference in body size is so huge that it makes people feel completely powerless. Crazy. What a mess. Everything is messed up. Everything in front of him, whether it was the buildings or the land, everything, no longer had the peace and tranquility of the past, and completely turned into a terrifying scene like being in hell. Yanluo, Laogo, the doorman, the cafeteria ant, and many other huge demons no longer had the intention to fight among themselves in this chaos. They each showed their magical powers and used their own abilities to quickly resist the cracked mouths around them and the tentacles of various shapes. Even the boss have too much time to take care of themselves. Queen Yanluo roared angrily, transformed directly, possessed by flames, and pulled out the small leather whip burning with fire, tearing off and burning the tentacles one after another. But at the same time, Queen Yanluo's movements seemed to stimulate the monster's ferocity, and more tentacles rolled towards Queen Yanluo. No. No. Principal, save me. Save me. Amidst the sounds of teeth grinding and fighting, the cafeteria ant screamed, and countless tentacles drowned her in an instant. The twisted tentacles squirmed wildly, and even wrapped the cafeteria ant into a rice dumpling, and the smelly blood squeezed out from the gaps in the tentacles. Baiu also produced a lot of minced meat. Before the cafeteria lady could finish her sentence, her voice suddenly stopped. When the wrapped zongzi was reopened and the tentacles scattered, there was not even a bit of residue left inside, let alone bones. The cafeteria ant died. In the blink of an eye, the two-headed dog turned into a torn piece of dog meat, drowned by the tentacles, and died. The terrain in front of him became increasingly weird. Countless tentacles integrated with the monster, forming walls that twisted in front of Yilin. Lend me your shoulder. Behind her, Otamai tried to steady her body and stepped on Yilin's shoulder. Yilin did not slow down, did not stop, and moved forward at full speed. Click. Otamai moved. She leaned on Yilin's shoulder and jumped into the air. Countless tentacles swept towards Otamai. Mid-air. One of Otamai's knives cut her wrist, and a large amount of blood spurted out, dyeing Otamai's vision red. After the demon knife drank blood, a strange blood light appeared again. Behind Otamai, a huge shadow gently hugged Otamai into his arms. The black flames condensed into substance like black flames, like armor, wrapping Otamai's whole body in it. Two heaven's first-class secrets will be destroyed in all directions. Hiss. A blood-red sword light nearly 10 meters long split everything in front of him into two. The broken tentacles flew into the air one after another. As soon as Yilin lifted the front of the car, Nightmare ignored the terrain and instantly drove through the gap opened by Otamai's ultimate move. A truly experienced driver can drive a drifting car on any road surface. After Otamai made this terrible blow, she did not stop, her body leaped forward, and landed on Yilin's back again. After Otamai returned to her seat, the black energy wrapped around her sword and body immediately dissipated without a trace, and the two swords were sheathed again. And her face was sickly pale, shaking involuntarily behind her back, as if she would fall down at any moment. After Otamai finished this chop, there were more cracks, constantly splitting from the flesh wall, and the sound of the rows of sharp teeth tearing and grinding was unsettling. More tentacles, with mouths big enough to bite off the heads of Yilin and Otamai, bit like crazy and surrounded them from all directions. It should be almost done. Yilin's expression was solemn. If there is still a glimmer of hope left in this trial, it can only be in that place. Now the entire Stakes Junior High School has been completely transformed and turned into a terrifying monster. The horror of this monster is beyond imagination. When she first entered the trial, Yilin would not have expected that such a terrifying monster would appear at the end of the trial. This is obviously just a second-level inner world. Facing the tentacles attacking from all sides, Yilin grasped the direction with both hands, flicked his thumb, and easily popped open a cover next to the throttle. Under the lid, there is a red button that was added after upgrading the skill not long ago. There is only a simple symbol on the scarlet button. Exclamation mark. Jet mode. After turning on the jet mode, the mount will gain a 200% speed bonus and gain the ability to glide at low altitude for a short period of time. But fuel consumption increases by 300%. That's right. This is the model of the new version of the ship that was born after Run Fast was inserted into the mount skill tree. Jet mode. Yilin pressed hard on the exclamation point. Rumble, rumble. At the moment when the red button was pressed, two black flames nearly 1 meter long spurted out from behind Nightmare's butt, that is, the exhaust pipe, and the strong smell of alcohol spread in an instant. Hold tight. Yilin shouted loudly, and in an instant, a terrifying explosive force burst out from behind. The moment the exhaust pipe spurted out black flames, the night dire completely turned into a black afterimage, rushing into the air. This is a motorcycle. A flying motorcycle. This is an autonomous drunk driving motorcycle. If Yilin were driving a Nightmare in the real world, it would probably not be Yilin, the driver, who would be dragged away to have his alcohol concentration tested, but the car under his crotch. The night dire accelerated at 200%, completely throwing everything around into slow motion, and the strong wind pressure pinned the two of them to the seats. If Yilin hadn't been mentally prepared and reminded in advance, the moment when Nightmare's butt burst into flames, the unprepared Oda dance might have been thrown away by the inertia brought about by the acceleration. 300% fuel consumption is very scary. The night dire burned a lot of fuel. After turning on the injection mode, Yilin could clearly detect that the fuel consumption pointer on the instrument panel was slowly decreasing at a constant rate as the night dire drifted in the air. This state cannot last long. When night dire is gliding in mid-air, the tentacles on the ground are temporarily unable to touch night dire's figure, and with this speed bonus, as long as Yilin's skills are good enough, he doesn't have to worry about being caught by those tentacles. Yilin was condescending and finally took the true face of Stakes Junior High School into his eyes. This is a monster as huge as an island. The monster is completely made of red flesh. The surface of the flesh is very rough, and the squirming meat strips are twisting crazily. This scene is like a piece of lean meat covered with crawling parasites. Click, 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 click. Iya, iya, iya. From the monster's appearance, it is impossible to distinguish the head, limbs, torso and other physical features. At a glance, the monster's body is full of densely packed mouths. The sharp teeth in the mouth are grinding crazily, eating everything that can be eaten. Everything. The terrifying sound of grinding teeth resounded throughout the sky. There are also countless tentacles extending from countless mouths full of sharp teeth. But the monster became ruthless, and it seemed that he wouldn't even let himself go. Some of the tentacles were directly bitten off by the teeth as soon as they stretched out, and then were swallowed back by the monster with a mouthful of them. New tentacles were born, and the cycle of life and death was endless. Appetite. For some reason, when he saw the monster's true form, this word suddenly popped into Yilin's mind. This monster with a mouth, seems to be the embodiment of appetite. All the organs in its body are created for eating. In front of it, the size of the night dire is so small, it is just not enough for the little food it can stuff between its teeth. Behind Yilin, Oda Mai lowered her head in shock, looking at everything below her. Time seems to be frozen. She almost forgot to think. At this moment, she didn't even think about drawing the sword. Because, this is obviously not a terrifying existence that can be matched by human power. A strange emotion quietly grew in Otamai's heart. This kind of strange emotion had never been felt by Otamai before, and she had never thought about it. But at this moment, that strange emotion completely washed away her determination to wield the knife and filled everything she had. Is this despair? Otamai looked pale and muttered to herself. She originally thought that even if there was no exit, after killing all the monsters, that would be the exit. But when the world in front of her has also become a monster, who should she kill? Boom. Right now. Somewhere on the monster's body suddenly exploded. It was one of the mouths, with thick smoke billowing from it. Boom boom boom. The continuous explosions sounded like a long series of muffled farts quietly released by a monster, one after another, unable to stop. The mouth was also twitching constantly, and a lot of minced meat was spat out from the mouth. At this time, Yilin, who had been concentrating on driving the dyer and playing with air drifting, heard Otamai talking to herself and couldn't help but smile and said, "Despair? Ha, now is not the time to completely despair. Otamai." Yilin seemed to see through Otamai's inner confusion and said, "If the whole world becomes a monster, then go and kill the world."